The story starts with a young man. His pudgy face is slick with sweat as he gasps for air. An overhead view reveals a vast, dilapidated structure under a torrential downpour. As the word disaster appears, his expression shifts to one of dawning horror. His terrified eyes convey a sudden, shocking realization. He was previously a player. Seated on a cold stairwell, he gazes out at the relentless, slanting rain. His mind races, questioning why he wasn't granted a powerful, feared cheat skill. A silent, internal scream of anguish erupts. He wonders why he is a pig. The narrative flashes back to a game screen displaying a grid of female characters. In an office, a slimmer man with spiky hair sits before his computer desk. The view focuses on his legs, clad in patterned pants under the office chair. His sharp, determined profile is revealed as he looks away from the monitor. The scene shifts to a clock on the wall, its hands approaching the hour. A close-up confirms the time is exactly 4:30 p.m., heightening the anticipation. He stands abruptly from his desk, his hands pressed firmly on its surface. With a sense of purpose, he slings a backpack over his shoulder. He strides past a working colleague, offering a quick farewell. A brief shot shows his co-worker's hands still typing furiously at their keyboard. The office is shown in a wider view, with him leaving while others work. A close-up captures two colleagues gossiping about his sudden departure. Walking down a city street, one notes he left on time despite their situation. His polished shoes hit the pavement as another guesses it's about that game. Back in the office, a female coworker expresses surprise at his desperation. His hand grips the doorknob to his home as she dismisses it as a stupid game. Inside his apartment, he surveys his room, a shrine filled with game merchandise. Removing his VR headset, he reflects that he got home a bit faster today. Posters of game heroines adorn his walls in the steel castle he built for Dunnex. A close-up shows him putting on the VR headset, ready to enter the game. His avatar is pulled into the digital world, falling through chaotic lines of code. The lean, stylish avatar, wearing goggles, falls with arms outstretched into the light. Floating in a vast cavern, text explains the game's graphics and action conquered the genre. A bustling city square with a huge ad shows the game's rise from obscurity. More advertisements highlight how quality and updates made it a household name. His avatar, now in heavy armor, stands resolutely within a dungeon. He is shown beside a colossal stone golem, an imposing and powerful ally. He expresses frustration, realizing his rushed login placed him in a weird location. The massive golem looms beside him, showcasing the scale of his virtual world. He admits to himself that he was also deeply addicted to the game. A flashback reveals him sprinting with manic energy, shouting with pure obsession. The suburban scene is overlaid with his final admission of being addicted. Back in his room, he pants heavily, still wearing the VR headset. He reflects that his 5 o'clock quitting time is perfect for the 6 o'clock update. Peering into his fridge, he confirms he chose his job just for this purpose. Standing barefoot, he acknowledges the immense importance of today's event. Lounging on his couch, he celebrates being selected as a beta tester. He muses that for a Dunnex player, the promise of rewards is an irresistible draw. His hands clench with anticipation, unable to contain his excitement for the event. Deciding it's close enough, he prepares to log in a little early. His avatar's armored leg materializes on the rocky ground of the event venue. He surveys the vast canyon, surprised to see other players have also arrived early. From a high vantage point, he listens to the other players discuss their strategies. A young man in dark armor looks upon the other players with disdain, finding their aura off-putting. Clad in his formidable gear, he decides to keep his distance from the others. He stands alone against a cloudy sky, questioning if the feeling he has is nervousness. His confidence solidifies as he focuses on the beta test rewards, certain of his own strength. In his mind, the common players are no match for elite testers like himself. Standing atop a symbolic pile of defeated bodies, he sees himself as one of the chosen few. His armored gauntlet clenches in anticipation of the event magnifying his power. He reassures himself that everything will be fine, asserting he is not an average player. Seeing it as 6 o'clock, he steels himself for whatever the event may be. His face becomes a mask of tense anticipation as the moment finally arrives. With eyes wide with focus, he feels the event begin with a palpable jolt. He walks alone through the desolate canyon, the beta test now officially underway. The scene cuts to a quiet, real-world setting, a gentle breeze rustling the leaves. Back in his bedroom, he sits slumped on his bed, his expression hollow and dejected. A close-up on his profile reveals a vacant look, a stark contrast to his previous intensity. He walks home from work, a solitary figure moving through the quiet neighborhood. The setting shifts to his office, a modern building where his colleagues are still working. One of his co-workers is seen typing, part of the mundane office environment. His colleagues discuss his recent strange behavior, agreeing that he is acting weird. They note that while he still leaves on time, his desperation for the game has vanished. A couple of weeks have now passed since the traumatic beta event occurred. A dark silhouette of his armored avatar appears, a haunting memory of the past. His face filled with despair looks up at the sky as he recalls the conclusion. His avatar faces a monstrous skeletal dinosaur, remembering that the event was pure hell. A colossal dragon had descended into the canyon, its first attack vaporizing many players. Without delay, the beast began firing huge random lasers across the ravaged landscape. Its thick, impenetrable skin rendered any counterattacks completely useless and without damage. A lone, heavily armored female warrior made a final, desperate stand against the monster. After sacrificing half of the participants, the survivors were finally able to defeat the dragon. Just as they claimed victory, the very ground of the event venue began to crack apart. The entire area collapsed, leaving behind only a treacherous network of floating platforms. The remaining players were now trapped in a true death game, forced to find an exit. A frantic, time-limited escape began as a player leaped between the floating islands. He watches grimly as numerous instant kill traps claim another unsuspecting victim. His path is blocked by a grotesque assembly of powerful monsters, with fallen players at their feet. A hulking minotaur unleashes a devastating swing, but he dodges with impossible speed. He lunges forward, his expression a mask of intense concentration as he prepares to strike. His blade connects with the beast, but a flicker of surprise crosses his determined face. He presses his assault, becoming a blur of motion as he strikes his foe again and again. His rapid movements leave a trail of after-images, overwhelming the confused minotaur. Landing softly after his attack, he turns to face his monstrous opponents once more. A mysterious white-hooded figure now stands nearby, an unexpected presence in the fray. The young man looks on, his face showing the immense strain of the intense battle. The hooded figure stands with him, a strange and silent ally in this chaotic world. They stand together amidst the now subdued creatures, where some might say luck was the deciding factor. Later, he scoffs at the notion of luck, believing it is a concept for the weak. The world shatters, revealing him performing grueling, real-world training in a downpour. He finds a moment of respite, leaning against an icy pillar to catch his breath. His face is a mask of fierce, unshakable confidence, a bead of sweat on his brow. He believes with absolute certainty that no one else could have cleared that challenge but him. A young man's face shows grim satisfaction after a difficult, draining challenge. Polished dress shoes step onto the floor, marking his return home. He hangs from a street sign, believing no one else could have succeeded. Inside, he removes his soaked school jacket with a smug expression. His bare feet touch the wet bathroom floor, triggering a sudden pain. Gasping, he clutches his chest, feeling a phantom agony from his ordeal. With a swift motion, he begins to pull off his VR gloves. Panting heavily, he stands in his room, still wearing the VR headset. His bare foot rests on the shaggy carpet of his bedroom. Removing the goggles, he expresses his satisfaction with the game's outcome. He walks to his computer, preparing for the next step. A message notification on screen confirms the update mail has finally arrived. Feeling triumphant, he strikes a confident pose, ready to proceed. With a confident look, he begins to install the new update. A massive license agreement suddenly appears, startling him with its sheer size. He nervously dismisses a frightening line, assuming it's just dramatic flair. A young man wearing VR goggles considers the game's strange warning about being transported. He quickly dismisses the idea, believing it's just a dramatic expression or setting. Concluding the game's admins are crazy, he admits he's just as crazy for playing. He resolves not to think too deeply about it, his posture confident. The game interface prompts him to choose between an auto-picked or custom character. With a sigh, he expresses how nerve-wracking the character creation process feels to him. He realizes that as a beta tester, he is unable to use his existing character. Deciding it's too much of a pain, he opts to let the game choose for him. A notification signals the installation is complete as he stares forward, ready to begin. A small, self-assured smile touches his lips as he prepares to dive into the game. The glowing "Let's Start" button beckons, marking the final step before entry. His physical body digitizes and dissolves, pulled into the abstract wireframe world of the game. His eyes snap open, the pupils now ringed with a strange mechanical glow. He finds himself seated in a vast auditorium, surrounded by rows of uniformed students. Looking toward the stage, his eyes widen with a jolt of shock and confusion. He recognizes the man at the podium, who is congratulating the new first-year students. His gaze drifts to the front rows, recognizing a confident red-haired boy. The protagonist's attention then shifts to a girl beside a hulking, armored figure. With dawning horror, his eyes widen as he realizes the truth of his situation. This is the opening sequence of the game Dungeon Explorer Chronicle, or Dunx. He notes the impressive graphics, a clear sign of a massive new update. A wave of sheer panic washes over him, his mind screaming in disbelief. Desperately, he tries to rationalize it, believing it must be computer-generated imagery. He forces himself to calm down, understanding the need to think like a top player. His internal analysis begins with a fundamental question about the nature of this world. A phantom gesture confirms his exclusive VR gloves and goggles are missing. The terrifying conclusion solidifies. He has been transported directly into the game. This leads him to the frightening question of what has happened to his body. He considers the possibilities, reasoning that there are two main potential scenarios. The first theory he entertains is that only his consciousness was transported. He visualizes this concept of a soul being transferred into a new vessel. His consciousness has been placed into a pre-existing body within this game world. A diagram illustrates his second theory. His entire body has been overwritten into this new form. He realizes that unless he can log out, he will never understand his dire situation. A memory surfaces of the original character, Narumi Sauta, repeatedly sexually harassing a terrified heroine. The vision concludes with Sauta's ultimate fate, purged, defeated, and expelled from the school. He realizes in horror that he's inhabiting the body of the despised character nicknamed Butao. Sprawled on the stairs, he laments that this is the absolute worst situation imaginable. The main characters walk past, casually mocking Buta-san for his inability to climb. The narrative then turns to the heroine Butao had relentlessly pursued. She is Hayase Kaoru, a strong and confident young woman walking a sunlit path. A national kendo champion and brilliant student, she is a person of admirable character. However, her renowned kindness does not extend to everyone. The one exception is Butao, whom she already despises for his past actions. He understands Butao is not a rival, just an insignificant side character. This mob character is a weak, unpleasant obstacle for whom he feels nothing. He deeply regrets his past decision to let the game auto-pick his character. Soon, Hayasakaru will become the central figure among the main characters. Knowing she already hates him, he decides he must not do anything suspicious. Suddenly, a sharp, unfamiliar pang of unease grips him, startling him completely. A summary begins, recapping the protagonist's unfortunate circumstances in this new world. He was transported into the game with a body weighing over 100 kilograms. The heroines already despise him due to the original Butao's past harassment. To complicate matters, he still possesses the intrusive feelings of the body's original owner. Inside the classroom, he finds his designated seat and slumps into it, overwhelmed. A young woman, Kaoru, glares at him with intense, undisguised contempt. She pointedly turns away, sighing with disgust at his very presence. At her desk, she rests her chin on her hand, completely ignoring him. Crushed by his hopeless situation, Narumi begins to sob quietly to himself. Looking out the window, he laments how much the heroine despises him. He scans the room, his gaze filled with a quiet, thoughtful curiosity. A realization dawns on him about the school's seating arrangement being based on grades. He understands with dread that he cannot simply choose to sit anywhere he likes. With grim finality, he spots the desk that has been assigned to him. A nameplate clearly reads Narumi Suda, confirming his designated spot. He is horrified to find himself seated in the very last row of the classroom. His classmates discuss how the Adventure School's entrance exam is incredibly difficult. He wonders how the original Butao could have possibly passed such a terrifying test. A small flicker of confidence emerges, realizing that just getting enrolled is an achievement. A teacher's polished dress shoe steps into the classroom, signaling the start of homeroom. The teacher, Murai Hajime, stands tall and imposing at the front of the room. He places the attendance record on his desk, instructing everyone to take their seats. Murai announces he will begin homeroom with a self-introduction and a talk about the school. Narumi flinches, his eyes wide with recognition and a hint of alarm. His internal monologue identifies the teacher as an alumnus from Adventurers University. The teacher begins his lecture, explaining the nature of the school. Narumi confirms that everything is proceeding exactly according to the game's scenario. However, he finds the reality of witnessing it firsthand to be overwhelming. He feels the immense weight of Murai's words, sensing he is more soldier than teacher. The palpable anxiety of his classmates is so thick he can almost touch it. A dark, cavernous dungeon is shown, hinting at the world's dangers. He acknowledges that such anxiety is natural for adventurers who face these perils. In this world, being an adventurer is a promising and high-profile profession. A roaring monster's maw symbolizes the deadly challenges they must overcome. The competition is fierce, a reality reflected in the school's harsh hierarchy. Mirai continues his lecture, his chalk scratching against the blackboard. Narumi reflects on the immense privileges that come with being a student here. Despite knowing most of this from the game, the situation feels unreal to him. He accepts that if he cannot return home, he must take this new life seriously. Mirai continues to write on the board as Narumi resolves to focus on his new career. The teacher explains the numerous options available to them after graduation. These paths include being scouted by companies or continuing to a higher university. He clarifies that students are expected to dive into dungeons as part of their lessons. The school's name Dunx is derived from its high focus on dungeon exploration. A female adventurer is shown in a dynamic pose fighting a wolf-like creature. A crystalline magic stone shatters, representing the core of the Dunx world's economy. Resources gathered from the dungeons are crucial, supporting the entire energy industry. This makes the academy the best place for companies to scout for new talent. Narumi feels a strong desire to aggressively challenge the dungeons for his own future. Mirai emphasizes the importance of teamwork, urging the students to form parties. A heavy-set student listens as his teacher announces the distribution of student terminals. From the front of the classroom, the teacher calls out the last remaining name. The student Narumi accepts the box, his hands trembling with a flicker of hope. Returning to his desk, he holds the package, thinking his ordeal might be over. He opens the box, believing that if he can return home, all his worry was for nothing. Inside, he recognizes the wristwatch-like device as the menu from the game Dunx. He recalls its various functions, including checking a player's current status. His thoughts focus on the most crucial feature of all, the ability to log out. Anticipation surges through him as he prepares to activate the terminal. His status page appears, revealing his name, Narumi Soda, and his level 1 stats. He stares in shock at his abysmally low stats, something he did not expect. Slumping over his desk, he mutters that he is getting used to these constant setbacks. A list of negative traits, including hated and body weight 100 kilograms, scrolls by. He desperately scrolls through the menu, pleading for the log out function to exist. With a frantic expression, he swipes rapidly through the device's interface. His search continues, his face a mask of focused and desperate energy. He keeps scrolling, his hope dwindling with every passing moment he finds nothing. The devastating truth finally appears on screen. There is no way to log out. Simultaneously, in the higher-ranked Class D, a teacher concludes her lesson for the day. A cocky, blonde-haired student named Kariya Isamu lounges arrogantly in his seat. One of his classmates calls out, trying to get his attention. The classmate reminds Kariya of his low rank and his obligation to wait. With a menacing smirk, Kariya reveals his plan to go raid Class E soon. Back in Class E, Narumi tries to rationalize his situation, recalling his dream of entering Dunx. His optimism fades, remembering he was transported as the despised character Butao. He looks at his own status card, shocked by the reality of his new identity. His eyes fall upon the unknown skill listed on his profile, Glutton. He recalls his long history with the game, even winning a hellish tester event. Despite his vast experience, he admits to himself that he doesn't know this skill. He acknowledges that getting a skill from the start is rare and often valuable. His thoughts are a blur of confusion regarding this strange new ability. He cynically wonders if he got the skill because he's fat and resolves to overwrite it. Since he cannot return, his immediate goal is to enter the dungeon as soon as possible. The classroom door crashes open as Kariya and his two cronies make their entrance. The students of Class E are startled and confused by the sudden, aggressive intrusion. One of Kariya's companions bellows insults at the pathetic lot of Class E. The companion introduces the imposing figure of Kariya Isamu from Class D. He announces that Kariya is here to choose a subordinate from among them. With arms crossed, Kariya demands that everyone reveal their status and skills. A student with a shadowed face calls out in protest from their desk. A girl with a long ponytail, Hayase Koru, rises defiantly from her seat. She declares that even as classmates, they are not obligated to show him anything. Narumi watches the confrontation, stunned into silence by her unexpected bravery. Another student, Akagi Yuma, agrees with her, saying the demand is nonsensical. Kariya coolly asks who they think they are, to defy his command. His companion points out that Class D isn't that much higher than their own. Karu glares at the companion, her posture tense with defiance. The companion leans over her desk, his voice a low and menacing, "Hey." He asks with utter contempt if she truly believes they are equals. Karu reveals they have been diving into dungeons since they were 12 years old. A long-haired student asserts his group's superior level over the cowering Class E students. His sharp, menacing gaze reinforces his demand, making it clear this is an order. The entire classroom appears distorted, crushed by the oppressive weight of his powerful presence. With a flash of power, the bully's aura skill physically crushes a terrified student. Narumi Suda flinches, recognizing the suffocating pressure of the aura skill being used. The bully looks down with a bored expression, completely unimpressed by the lack of resistance. He turns his attention to the rest of the class, again demanding to see their terminals. Narumi sweats, knowing the aura skill should not be usable outside of a dungeon. A cowering student is overwhelmed by the bully's oppressive aura, unable to move. The bully scoffs, asking contemptuously if that is all the resistance they can offer. He challenges anyone else to complain before repeating his demand to see their terminals. Narumi internally reflects that the aura skill should only work in special places. Feeling the aura's effect, Narumi is shocked to experience it in the classroom. The bully singles out Narumi, calling him the fat one in the failure seat. He declares that they will inspect Narumi's terminal first, making him the initial target. The bully holds up Narumi's status sheet, preparing to humiliate him publicly. He impatiently urges the fatso to show him the status sheet right now. The other students begin to whisper and gossip about the unfolding, cruel confrontation. The bully loudly proclaims that Narumi's status is laughably low for all to hear. He cruelly dismisses Narumi as a useless mob character that he doesn't need. Narumi's face shows his quiet acceptance of the humiliating insults he is receiving. He resolves to act the part of the weak fat guy, confirming his low stats. The bully turns from his first victim, seeking his next target with a dismissive gesture. A flicker of thought crosses Narumi's face as he watches the bully move on. A close-up of Narumi's face shows him observing the scene with a strange certainty. The bully calls out to his next target, a girl, who nervously stands up. A young woman with long, light hair stands apprehensively, her hands clasped before her. Her eyes are wide with fear as she faces the intimidating upperclassman. The bully asks for her name as she begins to stammer a reply. Narumi identifies her as a special playable heroine from the game world Dunx. He recalls she is a key to a specific story route and a fan-favorite character. The bully reacts with a simple, "Oh," his interest clearly piqued by her appearance. The heroine confirms her low-level and questionable abilities, looking downcast and nervous. The bully's expression shifts to lecherous interest as he taps her shoulder. He offers her special treatment, inviting her to his party because she is cute. Her face becomes a mask of pure shock and horror at his unwanted proposition. She trembles uncontrollably, unable to speak, her body language screaming her discomfort. Narumi watches, thinking that even all of Class E together cannot beat Korea. He feels certain that the bully will not succeed in taking the heroine away. The bully places a hand on her shoulder, telling her she should be happy. Narumi's gaze focuses on the reason he is so sure of this outcome. A new voice declares that the girl obviously does not like the situation. The heroine, Kaoru, looks at her defender, recalling her reasons for enrolling here. The defender's eye is shown, burning with focused and righteous determination. A confident young man, Akagi Yuma, stands ready to intervene on her behalf. The bully whirls around, enraged by the sudden and unexpected interruption. He furiously questions Akagi's interference, insisting the girl is obviously happy. Undeterred, the newcomer introduces himself as Akagi Yuma with unwavering confidence. He boldly proclaims his ambition to become the strongest man in the school. Kaoru stares at her heroic defender, her expression filled with complete awe and admiration. A determined eye glares forward, signaling the start of a tense confrontation. Two students mock a red-haired boy, questioning his audacity and telling him to know his place. In the classroom, Akagi stands his ground as his heavy-set classmate, Suda, watches intently. A hulking blonde student named Korea aggressively grabs Akagi by his uniform's collar. The violent speed of the confrontation is emphasized by a blur of chaotic lines. Leaning in close, Korea belittles Akagi, calling him a kid ignorant of true adventurers. Soda and his other classmates stare in shock at the sudden escalation of violence. The long-haired girl, Kaoru, looks on with a face full of undisguised horror. Korea's companion advises him to ignore the nonsense from a Class E small fry. After a moment of thought, Korea agrees and releases his grip on Akagi. With a menacing look, Korea asks Akagi if 1 month is enough time for preparation. Akagi listens as Korea declares he will personally test his claim of being the strongest. The duel, Korea explains, will have a safety rule so no one will die. He warns that the school is full of monster-like fighters, challenging Akagi's title. Korea clenches his fist, rhetorically asking if his assessment of the situation is wrong. With a confident smile, Akagi firmly accepts the challenge, agreeing with Korea's terms. Kaoru looks on, a single tear of relief or admiration tracing a path down her cheek. Two other students look on, surprised that Akagi would accept such a bold challenge. Korea's expression flickers with surprise before hardening into a menacing, knowing smirk. Turning to leave, Korea vows that he will remember the name Akagi Yuma. Akagi remains stoic as his opponent warns him to be prepared to lose an arm. His classmates call out his name, stunned by the gravity of the duel he just accepted. They crowd around him, praising him for his incredible bravery in the face of the threat. Kaoru stammers her thanks for his help, promising to cheer for him in the duel. Akagi humbly states his own desire is to become a noble adventurer like those he admires. Kaoru internally agrees, admitting that admiring such noble ideals is why she enrolled. However, she reveals a second conflicting reason. She also came to stay away from someone. The person she wanted to escape is her sullen-looking fiancé, Narumi Suda. In a memory, Kaoru confronts Suda on a flight of stairs, her posture demanding. She asks why he's so far behind, and he meekly apologizes for his slow pace. Kaoru nostalgically reflects that she preferred him when they were children. She fondly remembers him as a cowardly but honest boy who would protect her from bullies. Escaping the unmotivated shadow he'd become was her primary drive to pass the entrance exam. A quiet scene of a scooter on a road marks a journey or passage of time. She holds her acceptance letter, her expression a mixture of triumph and solemn determination. Staring at the blank document, she contemplates the weight of her future. Sitting alone on her floor, she is lost in thought, her acceptance letter still in hand. A slight pleased smile touches her lips, proud of her hard-won accomplishment. Her moment of peace is shattered by a phone call that leaves her utterly shocked. On the other end, Suda cheerfully announces he was also accepted into her new school. She can't believe Suda followed her, though she admits his passing the test is amazing. Standing barefoot in her home, she struggles to process the unbelievable news. She recalls that Suda's kind family runs a general store and often worries about her. Despite her disbelief, she admits she's starting to see her fiancé in a new light. A new memory begins with an urgent plea, her eyes wide with surprise. Suda's parents bow deeply, begging the skilled Kaoru to teach their sons sword fighting. Looking at her own acceptance letter, she reluctantly agrees to their heartfelt request. She felt she couldn't refuse his kind parents and saw it as a reward for him. During their training, the heavyset Suda struggles to keep up with the athletic Kaoru. She internally questions just how much effort the lazy Suda could have possibly exerted. A young woman reflects with disappointment, remembering a time when even Suda had impressed her. Her frustration mounts, recalling his complete refusal to ever limit his food intake. Another memory reveals his laziness, as he refused to even wake up early for training. Even on the rare occasions he did manage to start running with her, his lack of stamina quickly showed as he gasped and pleaded for them to stop. He argued that physical training was pointless, as leveling up would provide more stamina. Exasperated, she countered that leveling becomes significantly more difficult after level 4. The sheer effort of the training was clearly a great pain to him. He continued to pant and complain, his face a mask of pure exertion. He questioned why he had to suffer now after working so hard just to enroll. Kaoru mused on how amazing his enrollment was, yet worried about his argumentative attitude. She knew the strict adventurer school would not tolerate such blatant defiance from him. Feeling a pang of pity, she apologized and offered to match his slow pace. She suddenly realized this was a familiar pattern, something she had always done for him. His confidence to be lazy stemmed from his one success in passing the entrance exam. To some extent, she concluded, his current complacent state was her own fault. She decided she had to change her way of thinking, as she had enabled his behavior. With cold resolve, she understood that if that was the case, she must leave him behind. She ran on ahead, a stark reversal of their childhood when he had run to protect her. Her expression was firm and determined as she glanced back at his struggling form. Back in the present-day classroom, her hands rest on her desk, her decision solidified. She rises from her seat with purpose, ready to confront the situation head-on. Her gaze settles upon Suda, a new and serious intensity in her eyes. Nearby classmates wistfully remarked how great it would be if Suda had guts like Akagi. Startled by a classmate's call, Suda flinches at his desk, nervously clutching a paper. Kaoru strode purposefully across the classroom, making her way directly toward his desk. He looked up, surprised, as she approached and called out to him. Looming over him, she sternly demanded to know what was going on with him today. Flustered and intimidated by her directness, Suda was unable to form a coherent response. Her expression hardened as she impatiently pressed him to say something. Anything, he stammered, looking around the classroom for a way out of the tense confrontation. He quickly fabricated an excuse about something he needed to do and hastily fled. She watched him leave, a confused and disappointed expression on her face. With quiet finality, she accepted his retreat and turned away. Her thoughts drift back to 2 weeks after their joint training had started. She remembered telling his parents she was stopping as he showed no motivation. She had only continued that long because of her promise to his kind parents. Her feelings were now completely gone. Her love for him had faded entirely. Meanwhile, Suta's thoughts revealed he had no time for her, needing to level up fast. Their bond was a written magical marriage contract, tying her to him irrevocably. She lived in fear that he would eventually use its power to lust for her body. Before that could happen, she resolved to void the contract as soon as possible. Nearby, the handsome and popular Akagi Yuma looked on with a knowing smile. The full weight of her decision crashed down on Suta, leaving him utterly shocked. This devastating turn of events sent him to the one place he could act, the dungeon. He recalled how, as a player, he was supposed to visit Kaoru's family home. The memory of that intended path now felt like a distant, alternate reality. He stood before her family's business, the general store, Shop Naru. His expression was one of surprise as he took in the familiar storefront. A wave of awkwardness washed over him as he hesitated to enter the building. A young man hesitates, feeling reluctant to enter a strange house. From inside, a kind woman in an apron greets him as Suta. His face contorts in shock, completely bewildered by this unexpected welcome. Then a cheerful girl in a hoodie happily greets him as her brother. His eyes widen in utter disbelief, confronted with a sister he doesn't remember. Inside a disastrously messy room, he confirms it belongs to Narumi Suta. He reflects on a weird nostalgic feeling, blaming the mind of Butao. With a flash of insight, a profound realization about this world begins. He understands the two girls are Butao's family, resembling game heroines. This world is actively creating new information that was never in the game. A bead of sweat forms as he realizes this could be a very bad situation. He worries his advantage as a player might now be completely useless. His expression hardens. He must dive into a dungeon to test something. Looking at the chaotic room, he sighs with a sense of resignation. He grits his teeth, steeling himself for the immediate task at hand. His eyes focus as he prepares to bring order to the mess. He surveys the filthy room, which is buried under piles of trash. His expression softens as he concentrates on what needs to be done. With purpose, his hand reaches down to pick up an empty plastic bottle. He resolves to simply clean up his surroundings for the time being. Looking at his reflection, he feels the inherent strangeness of his situation. His hand firmly grips the handle of a vacuum cleaner. With forceful movements, he begins to vacuum the cluttered floor. He reconsiders Butao's lingering feelings, realizing they could be useful. He hopes to one day access these memories, but remains worried about Kaoru. Nevertheless, he continues his task, sorting through a pile of papers. His hand holds up a messy, hand-drawn magical contract with two names. He questions the nature of this contract he found while cleaning. He sees his and Kaoru's names, but dismisses it as a child's scribble. He decides to trust Butao's instincts, asking for his power just this once. A fleeting memory appears of him and Kaoru drawing the contract as children. The specific memory fades, but he retains the feeling of its importance. Convinced of its value, he decides to take the contract just in case. Having finished cleaning, he announces with resolve that it's time to go. A grand modern building stands tall, his destination, the dungeons. Clad in a simple tracksuit, he approaches the entrance to sign up. A female clerk at the counter watches him approach, a bat on his shoulder. The clerk asks him if he possesses any form of identification. Presenting a device on his wrist, he offers a quick apology. She recognizes his school uniform and asks him to fill out a form. She confirms she will issue his pass and instructs him to wait. Taking his ticket, he feels her judging his unconventional appearance. He walks through the crowded hall, feeling noticeably out of place. The vast hall is filled with a sea of adventurers waiting their turn. A monolithic black portal looms before them, the entrance to the dungeon. He finds his place in the queue, surrounded by armored and robed figures. His foot crosses the invisible threshold, stepping into the humming darkness. His eyes are wide with anticipation, a single bead of sweat on his face. He stands ready at the entrance, poised to step into the unknown. His gaze is fixed forward, his mind focused on the journey ahead. A young man's sneaker takes a decisive step onto a tiled surface. Wearing a tracksuit, the heavyset young man walks forward with purpose, baseball bat in hand. He falls into line with other adventurers, their backs turned as they enter the dungeon. Looking over his shoulder, he seems to contemplate the threshold he is crossing. Inside, he finds himself in a vast cavern, standing among a huge crowd of adventurers. He reflects on the strange feeling of passing the barrier, noting the area is surprisingly crowded. Desiring solitude, he breaks from the group and ventures deeper into the cave. His foot lands on the rocky ground of a quieter, more secluded passage. Having traveled far, he observes that the number of people has significantly decreased. In the silent passage, a dark, smoky wisp of energy begins to form before him. The energy coalesces, revealing a large, translucent slime with a single, dominant eyeball. Gripping his bat, he readies himself for his first real combat encounter in this world. He identifies the creature as a slime, a bead of nervous sweat on his face. Facing a smaller, quivering slime, he prepares his weapon for an attack. With a determined expression, he unleashes a powerful swing of his baseball bat. The blow connects with immense force, splattering the gelatinous creature. A moment of silence follows the impact, his eyes narrowed in concentration. The defeated slime dissolves into black smoke as he stands over its remains. Panting from the exertion, a wide, triumphant grin spreads across his face. He takes a moment to absorb his victory, his first real dungeon subjugation. A wave of awe washes over him as he fully realizes he's living in the world of Dunix. His thoughts turn to strategy, acknowledging the slow rate of progress in the early levels. Relying on his game knowledge, he decides to test a specific theory he has. He arrives at his destination, a cavern he identifies as the slime room. A diagram explains how slimes in this room merge to grow stronger. Inside, a small slime lets out a frightened eep upon sensing his presence. He brandishes his bat, boldly challenging the small creature to a fight. A moment of uncertainty strikes him as he surveys the chamber. Spotting other slimes, he points and commands them to combine their forms. The smaller slimes merge, bubbling together to form a larger, more imposing entity. He now faces the newly formed humanoid-shaped slime, ready for a tougher battle. With a grunt, he begins swinging his bat relentlessly at the larger monster. He reflects on his strategy, letting his gamer instincts guide his assault. A brilliant light flashes as the character's level 2 appear over his head. Exhausted, he collapses to the ground, announcing that he has finally leveled up. He pushes himself up from the floor, feeling a new surge of power. Sitting in the quiet cave, he lets out a quiet whoa in reaction to the feeling. A smile touches his lips as he muses how addictive the sensation of leveling up could be. He stands with renewed confidence, feeling he no longer needs to be inferior in his class. Leaving the room, he finds the surrounding area strangely empty for a popular hunting ground. He concludes that since he could enter, the area isn't off limits to him. This solitude, he realizes, makes it the perfect place to experiment with his abilities. He considers the concept of skills in Dunix, noting they are usually locked by level. The first exception he recalls is Aura, an intimidating skill used by Class D students. The second exception is Torch, a simple ability to create a source of light. The final available skill is Small Healing, a basic restorative power. He remembers the two methods of activation, shortcut keys or physical movement. Raising his hand, he prepares to test the manual activation method. He focuses his intent, and a glowing ball of light appears at his fingertip. The manual activation works perfectly, confirming the world's mechanics are similar to the game. A young man's eye is shown in a tight close-up, contemplating a surprising difference. In a rocky cavern, the same stout young man has a focused, determined expression. His hand grips a simple baseball bat, readying for a powerful swing. With a fierce battle cry, he unleashes an attack he calls Void/Shock. After completing his swing, he stands in a wide stance within the empty cavern. He turns away with a sigh, disappointed his unlearned skill failed to activate. His eye widens in surprise as a strange glitch-like effect flashes across his vision. Elsewhere, a spiky-haired boy expresses his astonishment at a sudden, powerful blast of energy. The same boy unleashes a devastating wave of power from his own baseball bat. The ground is torn asunder, creating a massive trench as the boy watches in awe. A different, heavier-set adventurer with long hair stands ready, a sword at his hip. His thoughts turn to his long history of dungeon diving, which began at age 12. He considers the immense risks that even well-prepared adults face in these dangerous places. With a sense of weary resignation, he concludes there is nothing to be sad about. His memory shows a chaotic scene of a group carrying a stretcher, dismissed as Class E. The first young man is shown lying unconscious on the ground, having fainted. A nurse with dark hair looks on with a professional, concerned expression. Waking up, he asks where he is and learns it is the guild's medical office. He blushes with deep embarrassment as the nurse explains he ran out of magical power. An abstract, blurry panel signifies the transition of time and location. The following Saturday evening, he stands outside an apartment building, deep in thought. He recalls his decision not to tell the nurse the full truth about his condition. The memory of somehow activating a skill he had not yet learned resurfaces. He knew that admitting this would have only made her think he was crazy. His feet are shown walking along a paved path, moving forward into the evening. While walking through a park, he reflects on the 4 debuffs that currently plague him. The first is the burden of being trapped in this unfamiliar body. The second is being haunted by the memories of the body's original owner, Butao. A third problem is the intense hatred he receives from a major story character. The fourth is his own dismay at his pitifully low stats. He realizes with dread that a fifth new problem is being added to the list. Arriving at his home, he announces his return from the outside. Inside, he is greeted by two massive platters of freshly fried food. He stares at the meal in complete shock, stunned by the sheer volume. Sitting at the table, he looks down at his own stomach with a realization. His mother expresses her confusion, wondering why he isn't eating his favorite foods. His sister chimes in, asking in disbelief if he is now able to eat vegetables. The family discusses his weight, with his father noting he's chubby. A scene from 1 month later shows two adventurers, Karaya and Akagi, in a duel. A spiky-haired warrior grimly considers the future, knowing a world war is coming. The protagonist, while eating, resolves that he too must start preparing for these events. He determines that he must level up to learn more about his mysterious transport. To achieve this goal, he acknowledges his family is currently a troublesome complication. The quiet neighborhood is shown at night. The windows of the house is lit up. At his desk, his hand is seen writing down a list of his biggest problems. He sits at his desk, admitting he has no clue about the transport phenomenon. His focus shifts to the impossible activation of the unlearned skill from the day before. He concedes that being able to do something he couldn't before is a good thing. The true problem, he realizes, is whether anyone else can do the same. He worries that if he is the only one with this power, he might fail to level up. A young man flies backward as a monstrous hand reaches up, contemplating the potential for him to throw the story into chaos. While writing at a desk, he worries that any deviation from the familiar narrative will create a problem for him. His expression hardens with resolve as he decides that his first priority must be to train his movement skills. Lying back in his chair, he concludes that he will need to visit the guild again the following day. Seated at his desk, he feels overwhelmed as the number of tasks he needs to accomplish continues to grow. The scene shows the exterior of a modern-looking building under a bright, cloudy sky. A hand rests on the handle of a door, poised to open it and step inside. A young woman in a long skirt expresses her concern, asking her brother if he is truly well enough to go out today. He tries to reassure her that he is fine, but she interrupts him with an insistent shout. His sister, dressed in overalls, calls out to her, "Oni," with a determined and energetic pose. Her eyes sparkle with hopeful excitement as she asks if he is going to the dungeon and begs to be taken along. Having slipped away, he walks from the door, leaving her request hanging in the air. His sister's face is a mask of pouting disappointment after being left behind. Carrying a backpack, the young man approaches a large, imposing multi-story building. He continues walking, lost in thought, his school uniform's ornate collar and tie visible. Unintentionally, he collides with a taller, long-haired student who reacts with surprise and annoyance. Seeing the student is from Class D, he decides not to get involved in their habit of bullying Class E. A girl with pigtails and overalls steps forward, confronting the long-haired student with a stern expression. She lectures the student, stating that as an adventurer, he should know better than to not apologize. The long-haired student reacts with angry disbelief, questioning her right to intervene. Caught in the middle, the protagonist becomes flustered, trying to de-escalate the situation. Dismissing them as an annoyance, the long-haired student turns and walks away from the confrontation. With a mocking wave, he sarcastically wishes the best for the students of Class E. The protagonist is left bewildered by the mention of Class E, while his sister looks on happily. His sister furiously explains that she had no choice but to follow him since he refused to take her. Her imagination runs wild as she pictures herself fighting monsters and excitedly demands he take her to the dungeons. To stall for time, he suggests they try to register her at the guild, knowing the rules will prevent it. Believing he is genuinely helping, his sister agrees enthusiastically and runs off toward the guild entrance. He lets out a quiet sigh of relief, having successfully diverted his sister for now. With his temporary freedom secured, he ascends a grand staircase towards the guild-affiliated library. Inside the library, he reveals his true purpose: to research his mysterious skill activation. He considers the two methods of casting, wondering how the game's auto-casting works in this world. The other method, manual casting, which he somehow performed, remains a complete and perplexing mystery. He decides to begin his research by looking for information on auto-casting first. At a desk, his face is puffed with concentration as he pores over a thick, open book. After reading, he realizes that auto-casting is simpler than he thought. One just has to pray while using magic. Having understood the first method, he prepares to move on to the next, more confusing topic. He turns the page, searching for the section on manual casting for skilled users. His eyes scan the page and his mind is filled with a silent, drawn-out cry of disbelief. The book's section on manual casting is effectively blank, offering no description or explanation. He concludes that using skills that haven't been learned is not a normal ability in this world. He theorizes that he is either the only one who can do it, or its existence is a closely guarded secret. This revelation means that using his skills will be far more difficult and dangerous from now on. He throws his head back in frustration, unable to process the complexity of his situation. His expression is one of utter confusion as he admits to himself that he doesn't understand anything. Looking out over a large populated atrium, he questions the very nature of this world. Despite his confusion, he puffs out his cheeks, his mind still working through the problem. Another student observes that there seem to be a surprising number of students from their school present. A condescending voice calls out to him from above, grabbing his attention. The arrogant, long-haired student he encountered earlier looms over him, mockingly calling him a fatso. At a library table, a heavy-set young man expresses his annoyance at an unwelcome reunion. A long-haired bully mockingly asks if he still doesn't know how to cast skills. The taunt continues, suggesting that perhaps now he can finally defeat a slime. Suda is startled, looking up at the sudden and aggressive confrontation. Outside, his younger sister Kano waits, her expression thoughtful and pensive. Kano's eyes widen as she processes a rumor, insisting to herself it must be true. Nearby, students gossip about an incredibly fat student who was defeated by a slime. A girl named Narumi approaches Suda's table, interrupting his thoughts. Kano grabs the gossiping girl's shoulder, desperately asking for more details. Inside the library, the bully stands menacingly over Suda's desk. Feigning ignorance, Suda asks what the bully's talking about. The bully reveals he saw Suda being carried away on a stretcher from floor 1. A flashback shows a tiny slime making contact with Suda's hand. The weak attack strikes his tracksuit-clad body with surprising effect. He is shown collapsing from the incredibly minor blow. The memory shows him face down, defeated by the most basic of monsters. In the present, Suda reels, his face a mask of horror at the humiliating memory. The bully announces that Class E students are only good for carrying gear. He cruelly suggests that having more slaves would improve his own class's mood. Suda meekly attempts to decline the demeaning proposition for the time being. His face contorts, as if being crushed by an immense invisible pressure. He remembers the bully using a powerful skill known as aura. The memory confirms the crushing pressure was affecting him alone. The bully's voice echoes, certain that Suda cannot possibly win against him. He is belittled as a worthless, small fry from the school's lowest class. The bully's words confirm he is the weakest person in the room. Suda is told he is nothing within the hierarchy of the adventure school. This verbal assault is visualized as Suda drowning in an abyss of despair. He is depicted as a lonely figure, sinking into an infinite black void. His spirit finally breaks, and he accepts his own worthlessness with a tragic smile. Suda dismisses his own skills and pride, accepting they are completely meaningless. He believes his classmates actively wish for him to be gone from the school. An empty desk symbolizes his inevitable and impending disappearance from class. He accepts the cruel nature of the world he now inhabits. Suda feels he understands this feeling of being an outcast better than anyone. He recalls being mocked by students from a high balcony for his pathetic defeat. The bully cruelly points out to everyone that Suda is crying. A memory of a warm dinner table flashes through Suda's mind. A hand suddenly grabs his tie, yanking him forward with force. His sister Kano stands protectively, warning the bully to stay away from her brother. Suda's eyes widen in stunned silence at her courageous intervention. The memory of a warm meal gives him something to cling to. He realizes with a jolt that he has a reason to fight. His fist clenches with newfound resolve. He has found his place. Kano stands as his shield, her back to him, ready to face the threat. The siblings now face the bully together across the library table. The bully's face darkens with annoyance at their continued defiance. From above, the three are locked in a tense and silent standoff. Kano takes her brother's hand, telling him that it's time for them to leave. The bully's hand clamps down on Kano's shoulder, preventing their escape. A young man's eyes are shown in a tight close-up, wide with stunned fear. An aggressive, long-haired bully confronts a blonde girl, asking if she really thinks she can leave. His face twists in rage as he reminds her that he is currently talking with her brother. The girl's eyes widen, a flicker of fear mixing with her defiant expression. Her brother, Suda, watches from the side, completely stunned and helpless. A vertical shot focuses on Suda's eye, his pupils shrinking with panic. His terror boils over as he desperately begs the girl to apologize. The bully lets out a furious shout, his anger reaching a boiling point. With a violent motion, he grabs the girl by her overalls, causing her to cry out. A close-up reveals the bully's cruel, malicious snarl. His expression shifts slightly, hinting at a moment of surprise. The girl glares back at him, her eyes burning with pure, unyielding defiance. Enraged by her lack of fear, the bully curses her viciously. He raises his fist to strike, while Suda watches in abject horror. The bully's fist is poised to punch the girl, a moment of imminent violence. Suda's face contorts, his mind reeling from the terrifying sight. He begins to frantically shout apologies on his sister's behalf. His mind screams for her to apologize, overwhelmed by sheer panic. A desperate, stammering cry escapes his lips. His world dissolves into a swirling vortex of abject fear. Suda throws himself into a deep, prostrating bow on the floor. The bully is completely baffled by this sudden, extreme gesture of submission. Still bowed, Suda's face shows his internal horror at his own actions. His mind screams, "No!" repeatedly, unable to believe his own cowardice. He realizes with a jolt that his body moved on its own, driven by a deep-seated fear. A friend arrives, calling out the name Butao in concern. A flash of memory reveals his sister's presence, giving him strength. The bully mutters about the audacity of the siblings opposing him. A past memory shows Soda being grabbed by the collar. Another memory shows him resolving to fight, his sister's silhouette behind him. A close-up on his sister's pigtails symbolizes her unwavering support. Suda's eyes are now filled with a new, fierce determination. His hand darts out from his bowing position, seizing the bully's tie. With tear-streaked fury, he glares up as the bully demands to be released. He unleashes his aura, turning the tables on his tormentor. The bully's face distorts in pain, feeling the crushing pressure. The sister lets out a small gasp, stunned by the sudden turn of events. Suda begins to utter a dark, menacing threat. An armored knight suddenly appears, forcefully separating the two boys. The knight points, offering to fight in Suda's place. Suda and the bully look on in utter shock at the intervention. The three figures stand in the hallway, the confrontation now halted. The sister watches the newcomer with a look of quiet concern. The bully demands to know why the second-ranked student from Class A is interfering. The knight's full, imposing armor is revealed, identified as Tenma Akira. Tenma explains her strange desire for them to get along as colleagues. Suda eagerly asks if she can truly handle the situation for him. The bully's eyes narrow, completely unimpressed by the knight's reasoning. He and Suda are both stunned by the bizarre turn of events. The bully reluctantly concedes, his face a mask of frustration. Walking away, the long-haired antagonist mutters a venomous curse under his breath. He glances back with a malicious grin, vowing to remember this slight. From above, Soda and Kano watch him retreat, left with their armored savior. Tenma leans against a bookshelf, admitting with a sigh that the confrontation was scary. A mental image reveals Tenma's rumored identity, a beautiful, high-ranking student. Suda now understands why she might have called him a colleague. Tenma reappears, cheerfully calling out to the startled Suda, who responds with surprise. With a friendly thumbs up, she congratulates them on a good fight. Her odd but friendly behavior leaves Suda completely bewildered. Raising a gauntleted hand, Tenma signals her intention to depart. She announces her need to shake off her family, clanking away down the hall. Suda is left looking after her, a mix of gratitude and confusion. The moment she is gone, Kano's composure shatters with a sudden gasp. Overwhelmed with emotion, she sobs a heartfelt apology and thank you to her brother. She embraces him tightly from behind, startling the surprised Suda. He suggests they find another place to talk, and she quietly agrees. They find a quiet spot to sit beneath a cloudy, atmospheric sky. Now on a bench, Kano asks why he returned from the guild so quickly. She calmly reveals that she never actually went to the guild at all. Suda is stunned as she admits she knew middle schoolers weren't allowed inside. With passion, she declares that she also wants to become an adventurer. Suda looks at her, processing this new information with a neutral expression. He asks why she was so stubborn, and she shyly admits she wanted attention. She explains he has been cold since the ceremony, not even using her name. With a pained expression, she apologizes for her deceptive and annoying behavior. Suda's unreadable expression shows him taking in her heartfelt confession. He sits quietly for a moment, processing the weight of her words. The possessor of his body realizes Butao's genuine love for his sister. He wonders if the original Butao was actually a decent person after all. The thought of Butao surfaces in his mind, a new perspective forming. This realization makes him feel a bit guilty for borrowing the body. Acting as Suda, he apologizes for being busy and promises to pay more attention. Kano's expression turns serious as she makes him promise not to be reckless. Suda internally notes that this is how the real Butao would likely act. Kano's face lights up with a bright, relieved smile, feeling all is well. Suda suggests they should go home now that they have reconciled. A new determination gleams in his eyes as a different plan forms. He tells Kano to go home first, leaving her to question his intentions. With a confident smirk, he declares his intent to grind his levels today. Sometime later, he arrives back at his house announcing his return. His father calls his name in alarm as he enters, looking disheveled. His parents note that unlike before, he is clearly injured this time. He tries to brush off their concern, insisting that he is fine. His mother mentions that Kano has been sulking since he left her. He finds Kano, who explains it was obvious he wanted to go to the dungeon. He calls out to her, ready to make amends for his choice. She sits with her back to him, still clearly upset by his actions. He leans in close, making a new promise to take her inside one day. Her face instantly lights up with excitement at his heartfelt words. Her expression quickly sours, revealing his practical reasoning missed the point. A woman wearing a cozy turtleneck sweater presents a plate of food. At a family dinner table, a young man's hidden objective is revealed. Suda bows deeply to the ground, shouting a desperate and forceful apology. From an overhead view, he is seen prostrating himself before a tall man. The long-haired man, Dekura, questions Suda's sudden and extreme submission. Suda's thoughts reveal the constant, harsh treatment that class E endures. A flashback shows Dekura laughing about the system designed to make students quit. His initial rebellious plan was thwarted by a powerful second-ranked armored student. He reflects on his prior act of defiance, which he now understands was a mistake. His new strategy involves feigning total submission, vowing not to defy his superiors. By adopting this pose, he intends to manipulate his tormentor's expectations. Dekura, intrigued by his guts, suggests they take their discussion elsewhere. Suda's internal monologue confirms his true goal is not a happy life here. Standing on a game poster, he affirms his primary wish is to return home. A memory of his sister protecting him reveals another powerful motivation. Surrounded by his new family, he vows to protect the people who accepted him. While eating, he also resolves to repay the original owner of his body, Butao. Lying in bed, he prepares himself for the official start of school on Monday. His immediate goal is to level up, believing power will grant him more options. A vision of a young woman, Kaoru, sleeping with a troubled expression appears. His hand clenches into a determined fist, symbolizing his will to protect her. The image of his resolute fist is held, emphasizing his inner strength. His expression hardens with the weight of the burdens he has chosen to carry. Looking over a quiet neighborhood, he vows to prevent any deviation from the game's story. A young woman in a school uniform stands waiting with a backpack on. Suda, annoyed, mutters to himself, asking who could be at the door. The sharp, clear sound of a doorbell rings through the morning air. His sister Kano informs him that that person has arrived once again. He approaches the door, his expression one of weary curiosity and slight annoyance. Upon seeing his visitor, his face is a mask of stunned surprise. He opens the door to find his classmate, Kaoru, waiting on his doorstep. An idealized memory shows him adventuring in a dungeon with his friends. He recalls from Butao's memory the details of his promise with Kaoru. A flashback confirms he and Kaoru agreed to walk to school together. A close-up on his polished shoe shows him taking a step forward. Kaoru's foot is shown walking in step, maintaining their silent agreement. The awkward, heavy silence of their walk is almost a physical presence. He knows that Kaoru, though faithful, despises this situation the most. He resolves to find a common topic to break the suffocating tension. An overhead view emphasizes the emotional distance between them as they walk. Kaoru breaks the silence, stating she heard he was defeated by a slime. Suda's face freezes in a moment of pure, utter shock and humiliation. He internally curses the long-haired student who spread the painful rumor. Kaoru stops walking, her feet planted firmly, forcing him to a halt. She informs him that she has already formed an adventuring party with Akagi-kun. Because of this, she declares that she will be unable to join his party. Suda's face shows the pain of her rejection, a cross-shaped mark appearing. Sweat drips down his face as he processes the emotional blow of her words. A memory of the original, tearful Butao is contrasted with his own reaction. He calmly accepts this development, thinking it aligns perfectly with the known story. His thoughts drift to a vision of Kaoru and Akagi as heroes destined to save the world. Walking through the school grounds, he feels a sense of pity for his current self, Narumi Sauta. Looking down, the heavy-set young man walks alone, burdened by his situation. He finds comfort that the plot is still following the game's script, which benefits his plans. With a resigned sigh, he senses an unwelcome figure approaching him in the hallway. Upon entering the classroom, he is bewildered to find Akagi Yuma waiting for him. Akagi greets him with a simple, almost casual, "Hey," initiating the confrontation. He immediately repeats the humiliating rumor about Narumi's defeat at the hands of a slime. Narumi is left completely flustered and speechless by the direct accusation. The damaging news has already spread, with classmates confirming the shameful story. Other students begin to mock him, calling his defeat incredibly lame. The ridicule continues as they marvel at how he could lose to such a weak monster. Utterly humiliated, Narumi accepts that he is viewed as the lowest of the low. Kaoru suddenly shouts at the others, telling them to stop their cruel taunting. Akagi then steps in, calmly telling the rest of the class not to be so harsh. The classroom buzzes with the aftermath of the tense exchange. He apologizes to Narumi, explaining everyone is on edge from a recent incident. With a disarming smile, Akagi thoughtfully includes himself in the apology. Narumi can only manage a weak, non-committal response to the gesture. Internally, he recognizes Akagi as the player's avatar from the game Dunix. He realizes Akagi is empty, fearing he might accidentally alter the story's course. Resolving to be careful, he worries about dragging down the rest of Class E. His classmates suggest a cruel new nickname for him, Butao, comparing him to livestock. A jolt of panic hits Narumi as he realizes the story is already changing. Akagi dismisses the nickname, but Narumi's anxiety about the deviation remains. Turning away, Akagi then greets Kaoru, leaving Narumi to his troubling thoughts. Regardless of the changes, Narumi is struck by a profound feeling of alienation. Standing amidst his peers, he feels completely and utterly out of place. The teacher, Mirai, announces that students must now form groups for dungeon diving. He explains that he is providing them all with an opportunity to do so. Overjoyed, Narumi silently thanks the teacher for this unexpected chance. Mirai instructs the class to begin, starting with the top-ranked student, Akagi. Akagi stands, preparing to deliver his introduction to the class. He confidently states his name, school, and his aspiration to be a warrior. Following him, a girl with dark hair introduces herself to her classmates. Hayase Kaoru then stands and formally states her name to the room. Another student, a smiling girl with glasses, gives her introduction. A boy with short hair shouts out his name with energetic enthusiasm. Narumi realizes his low-profile strategy has been a terrible, isolating mistake. Having barely spoken, he now faces the daunting task of finding a party. He decides he must act more cheerful and approachable to avoid being left out. Finally, the teacher calls on Narumi, the last student, to introduce himself. Leaping to his feet, Narumi bellows his full name with theatrical energy. He strikes a dramatic pose, declaring he uses a bat and aspires to be a priest. His hand moves in a blur, part of his over-the-top, desperate performance. He concludes with a cringy peace sign and a loud, "Please and thank you." His face becomes a blank, robotic mask as a deafening silence falls upon the room. The rest of the class is left completely stunned by his bizarre introduction. One girl covers her face, overwhelmed with secondhand embarrassment. The teacher simply stares, utterly speechless at the strange display. In a classroom, a teacher informs his students that their school orientation is about to begin. He stresses the importance of taking notes, as the facilities will be useful even after graduation. As students exit Class 1E, a heavyset boy is unexpectedly asked to form a team. The boy, Narumi Suda, strikes a strange pose at his desk, lost in his own world. His fist clenches with grim determination, signaling a private resolve for what is to come. He inwardly tries to convince himself that proceeding alone isn't such a bad idea after all. Following their teacher, the students walk in an orderly line down a bright school corridor. Narumi walks by himself, his expression one of pained effort and solitary focus. The teacher presents the arena, a place where students can train their skills and strength. He then shows them the well-equipped medical office, where a priest is always on standby. Standing before a grand building, the teacher explains a critical rule about dungeon exploration. He states that for the first 2 floors, all students must be in a group. Narumi's face fills with rage as he silently vows to kill the teacher, Mirai Hajime. The teacher explains that the rule is mostly a formality to prevent students from wandering off. He instructs everyone to gather at the Guild Plaza in 1 hour, allowing time for lunch. With the orientation over, the teacher walks away, leaving the students to form their groups. A diverse group of students begins to mingle, their expressions a mix of anticipation and anxiety. The social frenzy erupts as students eagerly try to find party members. A student with glasses observes the chaos, realizing everyone is anxious to start leveling up. In the crowd, Narumi is shoved aside and derisively told he is in the way. The bespectacled student steels himself, resolving that he too must do his best to succeed. A smug, blonde-haired student mockingly asks if Butao is seriously looking for a party. The girl Narumi approached turns away coldly, stating she has no interest in teaming up. Another group politely informs him that their party is unfortunately already full. Narumi's face is a mask of dejection, the repeated rejections clearly taking their toll. Sitting alone, he laments his inability to find a party, worried about his future. He feels that no one has time to waste on a failure like him. He watches the popular Akagi-kun, who appears to have already formed his party. To Narumi's surprise, Akagi seems to be declining the offers from the girls surrounding him. Akagi suddenly spots Narumi from across the cafeteria and waves in his direction. Approaching him, Akagi cheerfully asks Narumi if he would like to team up with him. Narumi is stunned into a blank, wide-eyed silence by the unexpected invitation. He internally questions if this is some kind of cruel joke or a death spell. His mind races in panic, knowing he needs a good party but fearing the consequences. He worries that interacting with Akagi will derail the story that he knows. His foreknowledge of this world's events is the only reason he is still alive. Changing the story of Dunex would mean he has nothing left in this world. Despite his fear, he finds he has no logical reason to refuse the offer. He considers using Kaoru as an excuse but decides against it, knowing she would disapprove. Two onlookers gossip that Kaoru was supposed to team up with Akagi. One of the girls desperately wishes someone would take Akagi away from her. A girl with a reddish-brown ponytail, Kaoru, appears, noting she seems to be the last one left. With a dramatic exclamation, she asks from a high landing if she can join their party. The unlikely trio stands together in combat gear, ready to enter the dungeon. Narumi is bewildered, wondering why he is in a group with Kaoru, who should oppose him. Kaoru asks if she can inquire about the main character's situation since they are grouped. She calls out to him, getting his attention before delivering a stern message. Her expression hardens as she warns him not to do anything foolish with her party member. He agrees with a quiet, almost pained look, understanding her reasoning completely. He knows that in the original story, the character Butao attacks the main character out of jealousy. A heavy-set young man calmly states that the traits of Butao only apply to the original. His female companion leans in with a sharp, challenging gaze, asking if he was trying to say something. Caught completely off guard by her question, his eyes widen in silent panic. His mind races, acknowledging the need for caution in these recent situations. He internally resolves to act normal, knowing she is watching him with suspicion. To deflect, he asks their other party member, Akagi, why he became an adventurer. Akagi pauses for a moment, considering the question with a thoughtful expression. The girl Kaoru listens to their exchange with a neutral, slightly curious look. A slight smile touches Akagi's lips as he prepares his honest answer. Looking away, he admits that he supposes his motivation was simply admiration. He elaborates, comparing it to a heroic ideal he saw on TV as a child. With a slight smile, Akagi apologizes for not having a more profound reason. His sincerity causes the heavy-set young man's own perspective to begin shifting. He reflects that in the game, Akagi was merely a vessel for player interaction. Yet he recognizes that the Akagi in this world feels different, more human. A memory flashes of Akagi standing his ground despite a massive power difference. He recalls how Akagi, just a freshman, showed such incredible resolve. A decision forms in his mind to support him not just as a character, but as a genuine human being, a true member of their party. He catches himself before dismissing Akagi's motive with a simple no. Instead, he looks at his friends and praises Akagi's reason as being very admirable. Kaoru is visibly bewildered by his sudden compliment, questioning his words. He inwardly grimaces, realizing he has made yet another social misstep. Akagi, however, seems unbothered, waving off the awkwardness as nothing at all. The official orientation on the dungeon's second floor comes to a close. An instructor dismisses them, permitting them to hunt with their new parties. With a final dismiss, Zerenya, the students are free to begin their adventures. Akagi raises his hand, calling out to the heavy-set young man as he leaves. The young man announces his plan to rent a weapon and make up for lost time. Akagi informs him that his own group is heading down to the third floor. He stands with a full party of 4 girls, gesturing towards his companions. In a surprising turn, Akagi invites the young man to join their party. The scene shifts to a quiet night at the tranquil highest pavilion. A young woman, Kaoru, relaxes in a stone bath, her expression contemplative. Elsewhere, a young man named Suda has a flushed and determined look. His bare back is seen, water dripping as he stands in a steamy room. The following day, Kaoru enters a simple, traditionally styled room in her home. She is startled, her attention suddenly caught by a notification on her phone. At the same time, Suda reacts to a message, wondering if it's from Sakurako. Monday morning begins with a hand pressing the doorbell at the Narumi residence. A young woman with blonde twin tails, Kano-chan, opens the door to a visitor. The visitor, Kaoru, stands at the entrance with a cool, unreadable expression. Kano-chan offers a cheerful but slightly hesitant greeting to Kaoru. Kaoru immediately expresses her concern, having heard that Suda was hospitalized. Kano-chan's demeanor sours as she curtly insists that her brother is fine. When Kaoru presses the issue, Kano-chan repeats forcefully that he is completely fine. Kano-chan's attention is then drawn down the hall as she points with alarm. Kaoru looks on, her face a mask of serious, detached observation. She reflects on her own cold behavior towards Suda since spring break. Suda's dark silhouette appears in a doorway, creating a tense atmosphere. A heavy-set young man in an ornate uniform stands in a doorway, looking bewildered. A young woman with long hair offers him a cool, detached morning greeting. The young man is shown in profile, his face contorted in pained, tearful distress. The woman reflects that being soft on him again would be bad for them both. Standing at the doorway, she announces her desire to cancel their magical marriage contract. Her thoughts reveal a fear that he would become stubborn if she told him directly. He suggests they go to school together for efficiency, a reason she finds confusing. With this promise, she resolves that she can finally turn their situation around. He urges her to go, but she protests that she is still eating her breakfast. They begin their walk to school, an awkward and palpable silence hanging between them. The woman, Kaoru, observes him, a look of suspicion clouding her features. She notes with unease that he seems to be acting with a new, strange certainty. Her mind flashes back to the start of a holiday, recalling their previous dynamic. In that memory, she had angrily questioned why he ignored her call, accusing him of studying. She had pressed him, asking if his studies were more important than their friendship. In the present, she notices he has stopped calling and no longer stares at her. She wonders if people can truly change so easily, or if this is just an act. To test him, she brings up the humiliating rumor of his defeat by a slime. With a feigned apology, she begins to deliver her carefully prepared statement. She informs him that she has already formed a party with a student named Akaji-kun. Therefore, she concludes she will be unable to join his own adventuring party. Her hand clenches into a tense fist as she waits for his expected reaction. Kaoru's expression is one of cool observation, waiting to see if her test works. To her complete surprise, he smiles and says it's good, feeling reassured for her. Her eyes widen in utter confusion and disbelief at his unexpected positivity. Internally, she knows he isn't the type of person who could hide his feelings. She begins to question if this means he has truly lost all interest in her. Arriving at the school lockers, she feels she should be happy, but is deeply conflicted. She watches him walk away from her, her thoughts a turmoil of confusion. Inside the school, she silently observes him interacting with another group of students. A taller, smug-looking student approaches the young man with aggressive intent. The bully grabs his collar, taunting him about his humiliating loss to a slime. Kaoru's eyes narrow as she watches the confrontation unfold from a short distance. The young man, Suda, realizes with horror that everyone already knows about his defeat. Other students join the mockery, calling his loss incredibly lame and pathetic. He hangs his head in shame, admitting to himself that he's the lowest of the low. Kaoru's anger begins to simmer, her frustration at the bullies growing. Suddenly she shouts, her voice cutting through the noise as she defends him. She admonishes the others, telling them not to speak to him that way. The entire class turns to look at her, stunned by her unexpected intervention. A hand clenches a bag strap belonging to the confident student, Akagi Yuma. Suda looks up in surprise as the handsome and popular Akagi approaches him. The two students now stand together, Akagi's presence shifting the classroom dynamic. A montage introduces the capable and heroic-looking adventurer, Akagi Yuma. Kaoru's thoughts reveal that ever since that day, she has wanted to team up with him. A flashback shows her staring at the magical contract, the source of her inner conflict. She had believed that the contract prevented her from loving anyone freely. Her mind was fixated on the contents of the contract, trying to understand them. She recalls focusing on a supposed penalty clause written within the document. The scene shifts, revealing her new adventuring party, confirming she joined Akagi's group. A young woman with a long ponytail kneels before racks of rental weapons. Looking up from the weapons, she lets out a quiet sound of acknowledgement. A young man in a school uniform approaches her as she remains kneeling. He addresses her directly, confirming that her name is Hayase-san. He explains that he saw her name on the official registration list earlier. With a direct gaze, he asks if she would be willing to form a party with him. She sharply questions his motive, wanting to know why he chose her specifically. He reveals his admiration, explaining that he saw her stand up against Class D. This reason seems to strike a chord deep within her, a jolt of realization. With renewed purpose, she enthusiastically accepts his offer to form a new party. Her internal thoughts reveal that her decision isn't about hating Suda. A memory shows her fighting alone, believing she can concentrate better without him. She recalls battling slimes, confirming her preference for focused solo combat. Their new teammate, the aspiring wizard Tachigi Naoto, issues a word of caution. The gentle priest, Sanju Sakurako, pleads for their vanguard not to stray too far. The group acknowledges their looming battle against the formidable Korea in 1 month. A young warrior stands ready to face the imposing, shadowy figure of his opponent. Judging by his oppressive aura, Karaya's level is determined to be over 10. She explains how leveling up enhances physical strength and unlocks job classes. With little time, she stresses the urgent need to level up as they are all jobless. Looking at her new companions, she feels a surge of confidence in their potential. Standing with her sword, she states that they also possess a secret weapon. Her hand clutches her uniform, her resolve hardening for the difficult trials ahead. In a memory, she approaches Suda and Akagi, asking if she can join their party. Her expression is intense as she insists on joining them for her own personal reasons. Now a party, the 3 adventurers walk together through a rocky dungeon pass. The unlikely trio of Akagi, Kaoru, and Soda stand together, their team formed. Suda quietly tries to get Kaoru's attention as she converses with Akagi. Kaoru calls out to Akagi, addressing him by his last name, Yuma. Akagi begins to offer Kaoru some friendly advice on her performance from yesterday. She listens with a knowing, gentle smile, understanding his compassionate intent. The party continues on, Akagi having tactfully shifted the conversation's focus. He excitedly asks if she saw the news about Kotaro-san clearing floor 31. Kaoru immediately recognizes that he deliberately changed the topic of conversation. She intuits that he did this to avoid making Suda feel bad about his recent loss. Her gaze becomes sharp and focused as she processes this subtle act of kindness. Akagi notices her silent contemplation and asks if she was about to say something. She turns to look at him, her expression shifting to one of serious inquiry. Her focus is now entirely on him, a new and more personal question forming. She asks Akagi why he chose to become an adventurer in the first place. Her gaze is steady as she awaits his thoughtful and slightly hesitant response. She continues to watch him, her own complex thoughts mirroring his potential answer. Akagi pauses for a moment, a faint smile on his lips as he considers her question. He admits that his primary motivation was likely born from admiring someone. Kaoru listens, her expression softening as she processes his simple, honest answer. A faint smile touches her lips as she quietly admits that she feels the same way. Her expression hardens instantly as she firmly denies this shared feeling aloud. Looking towards Suda, she internally confesses her conflicting desire to distance herself from him. The trio walks on, her private thoughts about being rude hanging in the air. Akagi's expression is serious as he addresses his party, ready for what lies ahead. A young man asks his 3 party members for their opinion on inviting someone new. His proposed candidate is revealed to be the dark-haired, heavy-set boy named Suda. One girl expresses her wish to honor a decision but has some personal reservations. Another member voices his concern about their reputation if they welcome the infamous boy. Watching Suda walk away, the leader asserts that his own opinion is what truly matters. He resolves to deal with the fallout later and asks for their help supporting Suda. A blonde party member agrees, willing to face any trouble that may come their way. With a determined clench of his fist, the leader focuses on his ultimate objective. He declares that nothing else matters as long as they can defeat their rival, Korea. The stern-looking man with glasses remains silent, his expression showing his continued disapproval. A long-haired girl admits to herself she hates the idea and wants to avoid her past. She observes that the current Suda seems to have lost all romantic interest in her. Believing Suda will trust their leader, she recalls a memory of his surprised face. She concludes that from Suda's point of view, there is no logical reason to refuse. Her expression shifts to one of utter disbelief at an unexpected outcome. The party's leader is equally stunned, his plan completely upended by Suda's reaction. A surprised look crosses Akagi Yuma's face as he regards his companion. With earnest conviction, he explains his invitation was because of a past compliment. He recalls Suda praising the process of his victory, not just the successful outcome. Suda apologizes for a previous answer, but Akagi reassures him it was good. His demeanor sharpens as he delivers a direct and challenging question to Suda. Akagi declares that Suda's very first task will be to fight the fearsome Korea. He emphasizes Korea's immense power, warning Suda not to be a deadweight. Suda erupts, accusing Akagi of pandering to the teacher and judging people by class. He desperately questions why he was invited, certain he would only be miserable. His self-deprecating tirade concludes with the insistence that he would be an outcast. Watching from a distance, Kaoru observes the difficult exchange with a troubled expression. She quietly wonders why Suda would speak about himself in such a negative way. His harsh, self-deprecating words continue to puzzle her as she analyzes his behavior. Her mind drifts back to a time when he used to speak with much more confidence. Memories flash, contrasting his past self with his present state, confirming he has changed. A painful realization dawns, questioning if she refused to accept his transformation. A young woman wonders if her assumption about the boy's meddling was a simple misunderstanding. Her face hardens with resolve, her gloved hand clenching into a tight, determined fist. Inside a dungeon, the boy is thrown backward by a powerful blow, struggling to defend himself. A searing blast of energy explodes against his halberd as he desperately blocks the attack. His face is a mask of terror and exertion while he holds his ground against his foe. The horrifying pale humanoid monster with a wide grin and horns lunges forward menacingly. Watching the beast approach, the boy's face is streaked with sweat and intense fear. The creature's massive, grinning jaw opens wide as it prepares to deliver a fatal strike. He lets out a cry of terror as the monster's attack shatters the ground around him. In a split second, the fear in his eyes is replaced by a cold, sharp focus. His hands tighten their grip on his weapon, his expression transforming into that of a warrior. With a surge of unexpected power, he prepares to unleash a powerful, decisive counterattack. He swings his massive weapon in a swift, clean arc, aiming to slice his foe. The blade connects, cleaving through the monster's body and sending a spray of dark fluid. Standing over the defeated creature, he catches his breath with a look of grim satisfaction. A LaForce symbol appears above him, marking his readiness to proceed to the next floor. 1 week after his arrival, the young man stands over a defeated monster's glowing core. He concludes that it's best to adventure alone and avoid the main story objectives. A young man reflects that level 4 is a good place to pause. He resolves to descend to the dungeon's 5th floor. Descending a grand staircase, he is a solitary figure in the vast hall. With a clenched fist, he acknowledges the significance of finally reaching level 4. He knows that from this point, leveling up becomes drastically more difficult. This level is the established bare minimum for professional adventurers with jobs. The world of Dunex, he recalls, is filled with various prepared gimmicks. Standing on the cracked cavern floor, he surveys his surroundings. Before him stands an imposing jagged cliff face. His feet are planted at the very edge of a deep, dark chasm. A single, precarious rope bridge is the only path across the abyss. Approaching the edge with his weapon, his expression is one of wary curiosity. This particular dungeon feature is known by its nickname, the Bridge Trap. The strategy involves crossing the bridge to gain the hatred of a single orc. One must then wait for the orc's war cry to summon its allies. After that, the adventurer carefully leads the pursuing horde back across the bridge. The final step of the plan is to sever the bridge's support rope. The fall damage the orcs receive counts as a kill, granting huge EXP. He looks down, considering the high-risk maneuver he has planned. Deciding it's too late today, he plans to return tomorrow to execute it. Suddenly, his head whips around, realizing he is not alone. He turns his attention to his true objective, an excellent gimmick. Peeking around a corner, his eyes widen in surprise at what he finds. He cautiously surveys the area from behind a cracked stone wall. With purpose, he steps out into the open space. Before him stands a solitary, ornate pillar known as the Gate. As a student, he is grateful for such a convenient shortcut. Yet he finds it deeply suspicious that no one else is using it. This isn't the only anomaly. The slime room on floor 1 was also deserted. He recalls that the best hunting spots on other floors were also empty. He recognizes these secret areas are incredibly helpful for players like himself. Deciding to take the risk, he prepares to activate the gate. He raises his hand, preparing to use autocast to activate the portal. With determination, he walks down a long corridor with a strange, grid-like floor. His expression is one of intense focus as he approaches the glowing gateway. With a look of surprise, he confirms that he has successfully activated it. Holding his hand up, he channels the energy needed for the teleportation. The world around him begins to deconstruct into a flurry of digital particles. The solid walls dissolve into a swirling cloud of white, geometric shapes. He finds himself transported to a clean, modern-looking hallway. Walking down the sterile corridor, he is now in a world away from the dungeon. He descends a set of pristine, empty stairs into the building's lower levels. He emerges into a vast, multi-storied atrium, standing alone in the space. The text confirms his location is the basement of the Adventurer's School. Since it's a day off, he notes that there are few people here. He plans to leave quietly before anyone notices his presence. A sharp voice suddenly demands to know what he is doing there. The stern-looking man now confronts him on an outdoor walkway. The man's piercing gaze narrows as he questions him further. He internally wonders if the man is unaware of the gate's existence. His eyes are wide with anxiety as he considers the teacher's potential suspicion of him. He quickly fabricates a story about forgetting something and returning from the dungeon. While he explains that he lost track of time, the teacher's sharp gaze analyzes him. Sweat drips down his face as he feels the full weight of the teacher's scrutiny. The teacher's polished shoes turn, signaling the end of the tense interrogation. Walking away, the man advises the young adventurer to be careful, leaving him alone. Before the secret gate, he reasons that the teacher's vague question confirms its secrecy. Looking at the school, he considers the chance that Mirai knew and feigned ignorance. Amidst dark clouds, he resolves to use the regular route tomorrow, just to be safe. The next day finds him standing at the edge of a deep chasm before a rope bridge. He declares his intention to execute the dangerous, high-reward strategy of the bridge trap. A powerful sound effect emphasizes the gravity and danger of the plane he is undertaking. Before proceeding, he decides to first check the structural integrity of the old bridge. He cautiously steps onto the wooden planks, which creak ominously under his weight. Continuing his test, he shakes the rope railings to ensure they can hold. With a series of forceful stomps, he confirms the bridge is sturdy enough for his plan. Wiping sweat from his brow, he lets out a breath, satisfied with his preparations. His hand resting on his weapon, he prepares himself, knowing the real danger is imminent. He mentally reviews the plan, noting that orcs are slow but dangerously powerful. His preparations are interrupted by the sight of an injured adventurer lying on the ground. The fallen man's quiet, desperate plea for help immediately catches his attention. Rushing to his side, he asks if he is all right and learns the man's friend is trapped. The injured adventurer points a trembling finger back towards the cliff he just escaped. With tears in his eyes, the man desperately begs him to save his friend. He looks towards the cliff, his expression shifting instantly to one of utter shock. A horrifying horde of pale, skeletal-faced orcs swarms up the rocky wall. The sight of the approaching monsters fills the young adventurer's face with pure terror. In a panic, he raises his heavy mace, swinging it in a desperate defensive arc. The orcs' powerful charge shatters the stone floor around them with incredible force. A violent impact sends a cloud of dust and debris flying through the cavern. The ground cracks and shatters under the weight of the monster's relentless assault. His foot slides back as his body trembles from the effort of holding his ground. A desperate strategy forms in his mind. He just needs to lure one of them. Hoisting the injured man over his shoulder, he urges him to hold on for a moment. As a pig-faced monster roars, he flees, dragging his companion towards the bridge. His face is a mask of pain and effort as a new desperate plan takes shape. Reaching the bridge, he lays the adventurer down and begins tying him to a support post. On the far side, the horde of skeletal monsters begins to shamble onto the bridge. With grim resolve, he gives the knot securing his companion one last firm tug. The old rope bridge sways precariously under the weight of the advancing monsters. Looking up, he is stunned to see the adventurer he just tied up is now free. The freed adventurer stands on the far side, the ropes lying discarded on the planks. He scrambles past the monsters, somehow reaching the other side of the bridge. His face contorted with effort, he frantically pulls out a small, sharp knife. He begins hacking furiously at the main support rope of the swaying bridge. The horde of monsters is nearly upon him as he works to sever the rope. Peeking from behind a post, his expression is one of desperate, frantic concentration. His teeth are gritted as he puts every ounce of his strength into the task. He yells that he just needs one more cut to send them all plunging down. From his perspective, the horde of monsters closes in as he cuts the final strands. An adventurer scales a precarious cliff face as an object falls from above. A young man's eyes are wide with sheer terror at an unseen threat. The air is split by a deafening, guttural roar echoing through the canyon. A horde of skeletal monsters tumbles from a collapsing rope bridge into a chasm. Two monstrous, pig-faced creatures plummet into the dark abyss below. A heavy-set boy sits beside a blonde adventurer who lies injured on the ground. The boy sits alone on the cliff edge, his knife lying beside him. Medics are seen wheeling the injured adventurer away on a stretcher. The rescued man asks if the chubby boy who saved him is still around. A medic replies that the boy had already vanished by the time they arrived. Suda, the boy, leans against a wall, his expression troubled and contemplative. A report later confirms that 2 of the 6 party members died. The stark, unavoidable reality of the situation sinks in. People died. He tries to tell himself it wasn't his fault, but a seed of doubt remains. A deep feeling persists that he made a huge blunder somewhere. He questions whether a dark part of him enjoyed the life or death struggle. Overwhelmed by guilt, he berates himself for not being more perfect and cautious. He clutches his head in his hands, trembling with anguish and regret. His sister Kano finds him in this state and asks if her Oni is okay. Startled, Suda sweats nervously as she asks about his well-being. Kano simply responds with a quiet non-committal, "Yeah." She watches him from across a table, her expression unreadable and distant. A heavy, unspoken silence hangs in the air between the 2 siblings. His mind flashes back to the carnage of the dungeon floor. The pained face of the injured adventurer haunts his memory. They sit opposite each other at the table, the quiet stretching on. Suda's hand clenches on the table as he prepares to speak her name. Under the table, his fist tightens while her hand rests on her leg. He asks Kano if she would enter the dungeon with him, even illegally. A new chapter begins, titled Kano's First Dungeon, set in their kitchen. Kano reacts with disbelief, shocked by his reckless proposal. Suda leans in, revealing that he knows of a secret back door they can use. She expresses her worry that her brother will get into trouble for breaking rules. He admits that if they are caught, it will indeed be a problem. He justifies the risk, saying it's a good way for her to get stronger. He mentions a crucial skill she must learn, a technique called fake. This skill, he explains, can be used to give an opponent false information. Kano listens intently, her expression serious as he stresses the skill's importance. She questions his sudden change of heart as he was recently against her diving. Suda concedes that her skepticism is a perfectly reasonable response. He reminds her of the violent incident they witnessed at the library. She recalls how students from the outside are treated with brutal violence. He declares his desire for her to be able to defend herself in such situations. His earnest and protective plea seems to have moved her. Suda watches her reaction, a bead of sweat on his brow as he waits. With a determined smile, Kano agrees to go, despite her lingering worries. She gives him a sly, confident look, her decision now firm. Suda lets out a small sigh of relief, a hint of a smile on his face. Looking at their house, he reflects that he's glad she's happy. A stark revelation appears. Half of his explanation was a lie. A grim thought reveals a future where many characters are fated to die. In this tragic timeline, the Narumi family is nothing more than disposable background characters. To defy this fate, he realizes they must level up and become relatively strong. His secret knowledge of the future story is an incredibly important, life-saving advantage. However, he knows that sharing this secret knowledge with others carries an immense risk. A memory of a brutal, desperate fight against a horde of orcs flashes through his mind. His eyes harden with resolve. He cannot be reluctant to protect those he loves. The narrative jumps forward in time, establishing that 1 week has now passed. A young man with dark, spiky hair looks on with a focused, determined expression. His companion, a blonde girl in a hoodie, asks if they have arrived yet. He explains they are taking a long, roundabout route to avoid certain identifiable students. Walking through the woods, she questions his strange attire, assuming they were just hiking. He refutes this, clarifying he never said they were going through the mountain. A heavy silence falls between them as they continue their journey through the forest. He grapples internally with the life-or-death decision of telling her his dangerous secret. Two figures sneak across the courtyard of a large, modern school building. He presses a finger to his lips, signaling for her to remain quiet. They walk down a sterile, tiled hallway, having successfully infiltrated the school. His hand touches a strange, glowing, hexagonal barrier, revealing a hidden entrance. They find themselves back within the familiar, cavernous landscape of the dungeon. Standing before a monstrous orc, he prepares to enact his dangerous plan. They arrive at a rickety rope bridge spanning a deep, dark chasm. He instructs her not to chicken out, as he will lure many orcs. She confidently assures him it will be fine, confirming her job is to cut the rope. For the past week, they have been meticulously preparing for this dangerous trap. Their preparations involve testing various weapons, including swords, maces, and even hand grenades. Ultimately, she chose a machete for her task, while he selected large scissors. The young woman, Kano, sits alone for a moment, her expression thoughtful and pensive. Her eyes widen in startled surprise as she hears a sudden, terrifying sound. A monstrous screech echoes from the chasm as the bridge begins to shake violently. He urgently screams at her to cut the rope, and she affirms his command. Her face is a mask of terror as she is tied to the railing as bait. A horde of horrifying, skeletal-faced creatures charge towards her across the swaying bridge. A single powerful orc leads the charge, its mouth open in a silent roar. Her fear transforms into grim determination as she prepares to act. Her hand tightens around the handle of the machete tied to the railing. Her eyes widen in horror as she witnesses an unexpected turn of events. The lead monster ignores her and lunges directly for her brother instead. Her brother Suda stands his ground, readying his scissors to counter the attack. He thrusts the scissors forward, impaling the creature's head with a sickening crunch. The impact stops the monster just inches from his face, saving him. The impaled creature and the rest of the horde plummet into the chasm. In the quiet aftermath, they sit together on the cliff edge, exhausted but safe. Looking remorseful, Kano offers a quiet apology to her brother for her hesitation. He reassures her he's fine, explaining a protective sleeve saved his arm. She insists she should be the one apologizing, as it was her first time. A strange, intense energy swirls around her, signaling a sudden change. She cries out in pain, but he calmly explains it's just the symptom of leveling up. Looking at her hands in wonder, she marvels that she gained 5 levels at once. He reacts with surprise, impressed by how much experience she gained from the horde. A young woman, Kano, is surprised by her power-up and asks what she should do. Her companion, Suda, urgently shouts for her to stop and not make a decision yet. He begins to explain the hidden potential of the seemingly plain newbie starting class. Using a diagram, he reveals that proper training expands the class's available skill slots. Soda notes that missing this opportunity will feel like a punch in the gut later on. Kano, still confused by the advanced information, asks what he means. Elsewhere, a different group of adventurers experiences a brilliant flash of light, reaching level 5. The party of 4 celebrates, finally able to change their respective job classes. A shirtless warrior, Yuma, confirms his decision to stick with the thief class. A title card announces a 1-week countdown to the anticipated match with Korea. An establishing shot highlights the imposing, modern architecture of a large building. Inside, the grand column-filled hall is revealed, a lone figure waiting within. A muscular man, Korea, stares forward with an expression of intense, focused determination. Suda and Kano share a meal, where he warns her to keep their bridge trap a secret. Her surprisingly shrewd response catches him completely off guard for a moment. Kano pragmatically notes that scary people might come looking for information with threats. Suda, impressed by her reasoning, agrees that she is correct. A quiet moment passes between them, filled with unspoken thoughts and mutual observation. Kano presses him, asking how he knew about the secret hunting spot. She gazes at him intently, questioning if his companion's easy trust bothers him. Suda, flustered, admits that it does in fact bother him. He offers a weak excuse, claiming he just found the lucrative spot by chance. Suda internally reflects that her trust in his Butao persona is a little odd. Kano's own thoughts reveal her suspicions about his amazing school enrollment. She recalls his cowardly behavior during a past incident in the library. Musing on his strange priorities, she notes how he simply replaced his old party. With a knowing look, she concludes that something about the situation feels off. Suda internally questions if he can trust her, finding her frankness suspicious. The scene shifts to the interior of a cavern with dripping stalactites. A red-haired woman, Kaoru, cries out with effort as she swings her sword. The brown-haired warrior, Yuma, holds his rapier steady, his gaze sharp and focused. The two are sparring, with Yuma skillfully parrying Kaoru's powerful downward strike. After the exchange, Yuma lets out a breath, a slight, satisfied smile on his face. He tells Kaoru that he's finally starting to get the feel for sword fights. He gives her full credit, stating that his recent improvement is all thanks to her. Kaoru, looking down, humbly deflects his praise, saying she admits she was only copying the battle record of their formidable opponent, Korea. Yuma smiles warmly, expressing his gratitude for her help regardless of the method. Kaoru's expression turns serious as a silent, thoughtful moment passes between them. She stands tall, calling out Yuma's name to get his full attention. With a sharp, intense gaze, she asks if he truly believes he can win against Korea. Yuma's expression becomes somber as he promises her that he will not lie. Standing alone in a dark void, he admits with stark honesty that he doesn't know. Kaoru stands against a rocky backdrop, her expression thoughtful and filled with concern. A blonde mage points out that Yuma fell into a slump after reaching level 4. Kaoru suggests that if his chances of winning are low, withdrawing is a valid option. Yuma's fist clenches as he firmly declares that he cannot withdraw from the duel. He explains the power disparity, noting Class E is lower in both level and experience. This upcoming duel, he states, is a rare chance he got on a whim to overthrow Korea. He resolves that if he withdraws, nothing will change, his hands clenching in determination. With a look of fierce resolve, Yuma states that retreating would brand them as cowards. His eyes burn with intensity as he vows with unwavering certainty that he will not lose. In another place, the heavy boots of a powerful figure step onto a tiled floor. Muscular and panting heavily, Korea stands alone amidst the wreckage of a training room. His ragged breath clouds in the air, a picture of raw power and focused exhaustion. The narrative flashes back to a pair of expensive lace-up boots worth 250,000 yen. A young woman named Kano looks on with concern beside a much larger male figure. A heavy-set Suda is seen decisively pointing out the costly boots in a shop. A memory surfaces of a younger, heavier Suda fighting a ferocious, wolf-like monster. In another flashback, he stands over the defeated form of a long-haired man. The story returns to Yuma, jogging through a wooded park at night with grim determination. A focused Kaoru is shown doing push-ups as part of their grueling training regimen. Their companion, the severe-looking Aishin, lifts weights with an equally intense expression. Their motivation is revealed in a painful memory of Kaoru lying lifeless on the ground. A hand reaches out in despair towards her still form in the desolate landscape. Her name is cried out in a moment of pure, unadulterated anguish. A flashback shows a younger Suda pulling the red-headed Akagi back from oncoming traffic. He points out with wide-eyed shock that the traffic light is red. Akagi looks back at him, flustered and surprised by his sudden, protective action. He offers a sheepish apology for his abruptness, their bond on display. In the present, Suda asks a worried question about how a friend is doing. Akagi looks back at him, her expression serious as she prepares to report. She confirms they raised Yuma's level to 6, thanks to his high motivation. Suda responds with a confident, almost smug smile, his plan seemingly on track. Akagi's thoughts, however, reveal her belief that the path ahead will be difficult. Their destination is revealed, a grand modern coliseum, the stage for their duel. Kariya bluntly states that in this upcoming event, his opponent will surely die. He acknowledges that Akagi-kun's leveling has progressed well, but it's not enough. The powerful warrior asserts that leveling alone cannot guarantee victory in this fight. He notes that a level 6 fighter would need a special weapon to even stand a chance. In the stands, a group of supporters gathers, including a man in a formal suit. The long-haired Ue and a dark-haired Kaoru watch the arena with concerned expressions. The severe Aishin and a blonde girl sit with grim faces, the tension palpable. Akagi clasps her hands together, her eyes shut in a silent, worried prayer. In the arena below, Kariya stands ready, facing his much smaller opponent. Yuma's gaze hardens as he internally refutes the grim prediction of his demise. Now clad in new armor, he holds a sleek rapier, a large scabbard on his back. He believes his secret plan just might work out after all. The event, titled Kariya's Event 1, is officially announced through a title card. Kariya asks Akagi Yuma if he is ready, and Yuma confirms that he always is. The crowd in the stands watches the two lone figures with bated breath. Akagi continues her silent, anxious prayer, her face tight with worry. Kariya's faction scoffs, certain that the students of Class E have no chance of winning. Akagi's eyes snap open, wide with shock as the duel is about to commence. Kaoru arrives to join the supporters, greeting her friends with a casual, "Yo!" Soda stands apart from the group, a quiet and significant observer of the scene. A blonde woman with them looks on, her expression filled with deep concern. U greets Kaoru warmly, calling her Sakurako-chan, relieved to see her. Aishin raises a hand, his expression severe and challenging towards his friends. He questions if they can truly afford to be so relaxed at such a critical moment. A young swordsman holds his rapier, his expression grim, certain his static sword is unknown. In the arena, Yuma stands ready, announcing his intention to begin the duel. From the stands, an official bellows the command for the match to start. Kariya explodes into motion, his great sword a blur as he lunges at his opponent. A girl in the audience watches, her eyes wide with shock at the sudden violence. The powerful swing connects, sending the smaller Yuma flying backward across the floor. Yuma's face contorts in shock, overwhelmed by the raw force of the initial attack. The watching girl reflects on the incredible speed of Kariya's great sword swing. Another spectator, Suda, admits to himself that the attack was too fast to see. Kariya stands in profile, his expression confident after his devastating opening move. Suda's thoughts reveal he is now level 8 due to a bridge trap exploit. He grimly concludes that even so, he would have no chance of winning this fight. His gaze drifts to his friends in the stands, a group of uniformed female students. His eyes narrow as he analyzes the complex power dynamics of their world. He considers how, even at the same level, their stamina and combat prowess differ. It is possible, he knows, to overcome a level disadvantage with the right strategy. Yet he acknowledges Kariya's immense physical advantage as a level 11, demanding caution. This, he believes, is when the secret weapon will finally come into play. In the arena, the two combatants are locked in a tense exchange of blows. Yuma lands gracefully after dodging a low swing, ready for his counterattack. Kariya lets out a frustrated grunt as Yuma questions his opponent's lack of power. He presses further, asking if Kariya's cautiousness is a sign that he is scared. Kariya's distinctive lace-up boots are shown as he takes a heavy, deliberate step. Their footsteps echo on the tiled floor as the two warriors circle each other. Yuma suggests that at this rate, they will only succeed in wearing each other out. Sweat beads on Yuma's temple, his focus absolute as the tension escalates. With a slight grimace, Kariya decides the time for testing is finally over. The camera focuses on Yuma's elegant rapier, the key to his entire plan. The weapon's ability, the static sword, which is explained. It lowers agility and can paralyze. Suda's thoughts confirm the strategy was to obtain a bothersome weapon like this. In the arena, Yuma prepares to execute his plan against the much larger Korea. He lunges forward in a burst of speed, his enhanced boots giving him an edge. Korea's eyes widen in surprise at the sudden, unexpected velocity of the attack. With precision, Yuma's blade strikes true, hitting Korea's calf. The effect is immediate, as Korea's eye registers the successful hit. Yuma's own eyes are sharp with focus, his plan unfolding perfectly. Korea's leg drags heavily, the agility debuff having taken hold. From the stands, upper-class students mock Class E's lame and impatient tactics. A calm voice from behind them firmly states that their assessment is wrong. Yuma knows his static sword is a weapon Korea is completely unprepared for. An observer notes Korea's wary nature prevents him from using large, risky moves. Suda recalls Korea's favorite move, a defensive counterattack. He knows Korea endures attacks before unleashing a single devastating swing. Korea demonstrates this now, his expression hardening as he prepares his signature move. He raises his great sword high, gathering his immense strength for a crushing blow. Yuma's gaze narrows, his focus absolute as he anticipates the coming attack. He faces the menacing silhouette of Korea, who is now poised to strike. With a burst of speed, Yuma lunges forward, declaring his intent to seize victory. He unleashes his skill, Double Sting, a brilliant flash of 2 instantaneous strikes. The attack connects with decisive force, shattering Korea's formidable chest plate. A man in a white coat, Suokuki, is slammed backward against a brick wall. His face contorts in agony as he lets out a pain gasp from the phantom blow. A fragmented memory shows him on a throne, questioning an unseen figure. The vision clarifies, identifying him as Suokuki of Class 1B, demanding answers. He confronts a military-clad woman, certain she already knows what he is asking. Suo accuses her of using his student, Sakura, to expel the entire Class E. The captain's cold gaze reveals her plan was based on her own champion losing. She calmly acknowledges the school's rigid ranking system, from Class A to E. With a confident stride, she admits to arranging the duel against Class E. The captain reveals she used her connections to secure the arena for the match. A brutal flashback shows her standing victorious over 2 defeated students. The memory continues, showing Sakura collapsed on the floor before the imposing captain. Sakura, though beaten, fiercely insists that her champion, Korea, will not lose. She speaks of his unimaginable efforts, diving into disgusting places to grow stronger. The captain's face remains a mask of bored contempt, unmoved by Sakura's plea. In a flash of motion, the captain brutally kicks the defenseless Sakura. She scoffs at the very concept of hard work, her expression full of disdain. The entire system, she explains, was created simply to deny the value of effort. She declares that the caste system was made for this very purpose. The captain then turns to Korea, asking if he agrees with her cruel philosophy. Korea stands stoically, the weight of the entire confrontation pressing down on him. Sakura, pinned under the captain's boot, calls out his name in desperation. The captain and Korea are locked in a tense, silent standoff. Sakura tearfully pleads with Korea, asking if he is going to lose. Her question about his strength hangs in the air, a heavy burden of faith. The captain presses Korea, asking if he truly believes he can win against Suo. Korea looks up, his face a mask of torment under the psychological assault. The captain then asks a shocked Sakura if she thinks Korea lacks effort. Her question is a cruel trap, designed to completely shatter Sakura's spirit. Sakura's eyes widen in horror, caught in the captain's manipulative game. Korea's expression is one of grim resignation as he prepares to surrender. Bowing his head, he admits that even if he loses, he still worked hard. He states he won't make excuses and will simply show the results of his efforts. Apologizing for the trouble, he mentions an incident in the library he was unaware of. He then announces his intention to return to training, excusing himself from the room. The captain asks if he truly won't help Sakura, sealing her fate. Korea coldly tells the captain to do as she likes, completely abandoning his follower. Taking him at his word, the captain proceeds to grind her boot into Sakura's back. Sakura's choked pleas for her to stop echo unheard in the cold, unforgiving room. Back in the present duel, Akagi Yuma has his opponent, Korea, in a grapple. Korea realizes Yuma knew about his static sword's agility lowering and stun effects. The thought that his secret technique was already known sends a jolt of shock through Korea. Yuma pants, declaring with a triumphant grin that he can see Korea's every move. His face is a mask of feral confidence as he prepares to press his advantage. With a powerful twist, Yuma sweeps Korea's legs, sending the larger warrior to the ground. Korea shouts in disbelief from the floor, questioning how Yuma saw his movements. A dark aura emanates from him as he demands to know what his opponent said. Yuma explains he had countermeasures, modifying his armor to grant him stun resistance. Though exhausted, Yuma knows the fight isn't over. expecting Kariya has another trick. He pushes himself up from the ground, gripping his sword, ready for the battle's next phase. A battered warrior holds his sword, his torso armor showing signs of a fierce battle. The Colosseum crowd roars with excitement, their cheers echoing through the packed stands. Among the onlookers, Yuma's friends watch in distress, one bearing her face in despair. A boy with glasses and a girl next to him look on with shocked, concerned expressions. Another supporter, a girl with a long ponytail, gazes down with grim determination. Down in the arena, the exhausted Yuma faces the imposing armored figure of Kariya. Pushed to his absolute limit, Yuma looks up from the ground with defiant, weary eyes. Kariya looms over him, coldly asking if his opponent is now ready to surrender. With a primal roar, Yuma fiercely rejects the idea of giving up, shouting his defiance. He launches himself into a desperate flying kick, a final all-or-nothing gambit. The attack fails and he crumples to the ground with a pained grunt. Kariya sits casually on the floor, looking down on his defeated foe with utter indifference. A final powerful blow sends Yuma hurtling through the air in a blur of motion. His opponent watches him fall, his expression cold and completely unmoved by the victory. Lying broken on the ground, Yuma chokes out a single, incomplete word of protest. A blonde girl rushes to his side, shielding him and pleading for the victor to stop. Her desperate voice begs Kariya not to hurt the fallen warrior any further. Kariya's eye is shown in a close-up, his gaze still cold and unwavering. From a hallway, a smug man asks his nervous companion if he should retract his earlier words. A man in a suit walks away down a corridor, the outcome of the duel now settled. An announcer declares Yuma's loss and Kariya's victory as the victor looms over the fallen. A bald-headed supporter in the stands grimaces, his face a mask of pure anger. Another of Yuma's female friends stares in wide-eyed horror at the scene below. Yuma's face is shown, etched with the pain and humiliation of his total defeat. The dark-haired boy with glasses looks on, a bead of sweat on his brow. Kariya stands triumphant over his fallen foe, a symbol of the unshakable hierarchy. Enraged, Yuma's friend lunges forward, shouting in protest, but is held back by another. The blonde girl gently cradles the defeated Yuma's head in her lap. His supporters, including a girl with pigtails, watch with expressions of utter dismay. Two more of Yuma's friends rush toward the arena, desperately calling out his name. Kariya turns to the defeated E-Class, demanding to know if they finally understand. He lectures them on power, asking who is stronger and who they must now obey. A disembodied voice declares that few of them will ever rise above D-Class. Their ultimate fate is sealed. They are dismissed as nothing more than slaves. An overhead view shows the defeated students receiving a new, demeaning order. A woman in a cap smirks, announcing the upper class's desire for gophers. Kariya challenges anyone with a problem to duel him, promising the same brutal outcome. He gestures to the broken Yuma as an example of what awaits any defiance. Yuma groans in pain, the weight of his loss pressing down on him. A girl from another class remarks with disdain that she knew E-Class was weak. A condescending official notes that their spirit is the only good thing about them. He tells them to prepare themselves for their new lives as servants. Supported by his friends, Yuma hangs his head in shame, apologizing for his failure. In a moment of anguish, he admits his own weakness, tears in his eyes. His friend with glasses places a supportive hand on his back. The group of friends looks on, their expressions a mixture of pity and concern. The boy with glasses looks closely at the defeated Yuma, his thoughts hidden. Yuma forces a pained grin, apologizing again but fiercely promising to win next time. His friends are taken aback by this sudden resurgence of his fighting spirit. The boy with glasses, however, turns away, his mind already on other, deeper concerns. A heavy-set young man walks away from a confrontation, internally reflecting that he expected to feel vexed. His expression hardens into a determined glare as he resolves to hold a grudge instead. Walking through an empty classroom, his solitary journey mirrors his detached and calculating thoughts. Seen from behind, his backpack symbolizes the secret burdens he carries. Strolling along a forest path, he considers the but that complicates his seemingly simple feelings. He remembers the vast disparity between the social classes, a problem he feels he cannot manage. His thoughts reveal he feels sorry for the defeated Akagi-kun, but considers the loss a minor story deviation. A close-up on his eye shows him realizing the true problem is something else entirely. In a study, Kariya's armor sits nearby as he questions who provided the countermeasure to the static sword. The powerful static sword is displayed, a weapon noted to be extremely difficult to obtain. He knows that for a normal inhabitant of this world, acquiring such an item is unexpected. Looking at an image of the school, he notes Kariya's armor is also different from the game. While he had suspicions before, He is now completely convinced of a hidden truth. His eyes widen in shock as he comes to the stunning conclusion that there are other players besides him. A montage of memories begins, showing a smug authority figure observing a scene from behind bars. He recalls seeing the defeated Akagi lying in a sickbay bed, a consequence of the duel. His concerned friends are also part of this memory, their faces etched with worry. He theorizes a shadowy figure must have told Kariya how to acquire the static sword. More alarmingly, another figure must have informed Kariya of the countermeasures to it. Walking through the woods, he decides to act on the premise that these other players exist. The possibility of the second, more subtle player is the one that truly worries him. He reasons that crushing Akagi-kun was a strategic mistake, unable to read their motives. Standing on railroad tracks, he resolves to follow the game's story to find the truth of his transport. He understands that depending on the situation, these other players could become hostile towards him. The scene shifts to the academy grounds, where a solitary figure watches a group of students leave. A close-up reveals a young man with glasses, his thoughts unspoken but clearly weighing on him. Inside an infirmary, the defeated duelist Yuma is visited by 3 of his friends. One of his friends informs him that his injuries are not serious and he will be fine. Yuma looks at his friends and offers them his sincere thanks for their support. The friend with glasses addresses him by name, Yuma, his expression serious. He in turn thanks Yuma for fighting on their behalf. He laments that their strategic static sword plan was seen through by the upper classes. Yuma, however, insists that the duel was not a pointless endeavor. He thanks his friends once more, his expression firm despite the recent loss. The group stands quietly around his bed, the atmosphere somber. He tells his friends they can return to class, as he plans to rest for a while. As they walk down the hall, one girl remarks that Yuma looked better than she thought. The 3 friends walk away from the infirmary, their footsteps echoing. The other girl immediately refutes this, stating firmly that he is not fine. The friend with glasses explains that Yuma doesn't want anyone to worry about him. He elaborates that Yuma is simply using the doctor's words as a convenient excuse. His frustration boils over, and his hand clenches into a tight, trembling fist. He slams his fist against the wall, explaining Yuma is essentially telling them to leave him alone. A blur of motion indicates his attention has been caught by someone else in the hall. He calls out to the 2 students he has just spotted. The heavyset protagonist looks up, startled and recognizing the voice. An injured student with glasses introduces himself as Kikuchi, here to thank his rescuer. He explains that he guessed the protagonist was a student due to his youth and skill. In a flashback, Kikuchi recounts how one of his female party members was being harassed. He had tried to intervene and peacefully defuse the situation, but things escalated. A flashback reveals a rival party deceptively offering information about a supposed treasure location. In the present, the injured Kikuchi tells Suda the promised spot was an orc lord's nest. Suda recalls a horrifying image of Kikuchi's party being overwhelmed by monstrous orcs. Overcome with guilt, Suda apologizes, wishing he had arrived sooner to prevent the tragedy. Kikuchi, however, looks on with a grimly pragmatic and accepting expression. He explains that he had done his own research on the area beforehand. Kikuchi adds that the guild had even issued a formal warning about orc groups. Despite his own feelings, Kikuchi turns his intense gratitude towards a surprised Suda. He sincerely thanks Suda for saving him, regardless of the tragic circumstances. Suda is left speechless, unsure how to respond to Kikuchi's earnest thanks. Kikuchi maintains his serious, grateful gaze, his words hanging in the air. Suddenly, both boys are startled by an angry shout, their eyes wide with alarm. Suda recognizes the approaching figures as the group of bullies from before. The bullies' leader grabs Kikuchi, furiously accusing them of deception. He falsely blames them for the deaths of 2 of his own party members. The full group of 5 bullies stands menacingly, confronting the 2 students. Their leader mockingly recognizes Kikuchi's group as the small fry from before. He cruelly taunts them, asking how the orc ambush tasted. Enraged by the injustice, Suda lunges forward, shouting a curse at the leader. The bully's hand moves in a blur, effortlessly catching Suda's incoming punch. He sneers that this is what they get for refusing his previous invitation to join. His hand grips Suda's fist, completely neutralizing the attack with ease. The leader delivers a swift, powerful kick to Suda's stomach, sending him flying. Suda stumbles back, clutching the injured Kikuchi for support while groaning in pain. He looks up at his attacker, his eyes burning with silent, helpless fury. The bullies mock them, calling them idiots and confirming there was never any treasure. As the bullies depart, Suda's face is shadowed with frustration and resolve. Kikuchi reflects on the systemic oppression and persecution faced by Class E students. He feels he has so much to say, but his expression is one of pained resignation. He knows he is not the one with the power to voice this injustice. Suda looks on, a new thought beginning to form in his mind. He calls out Kikuchi's name, his voice filled with newfound purpose. Helping Kikuchi up, Suda makes a solemn vow to one day take them on. Kikuchi, shocked, warns him of the danger and their enemy's immense strength. Suda declares his intent to train seriously, hinting at his own hidden power. Kikuchi is left stunned and speechless by Suda's sudden, fierce determination. Suda apologizes for the incident, and Kikuchi can only offer a quiet thank you. From a distance, the ponytailed girl Kaoru watches the entire exchange unfold. Her expression is unreadable as she observes Suda helping Kikuchi away from the scene. The narrative shifts to her perspective, revealing a dream she has been having lately. She dreams she is a pupa, given the chance to become a butterfly. However, she reflects that the reality awaiting her is different from what she imagined. Her hope was crushed, symbolized by Suda suspended in a shattered web. She realizes with pain that the boy she once looked down on is now leaving her behind. Her present-day expression is one of weary resignation, her thoughts heavy. The next morning, she sits alone in her room, a solitary figure. The view from her window shows the quiet, sprawling suburban landscape. Walking through the streets, she spots Suda just ahead of her. She follows him at a distance, a silent observer of his morning journey. Her gaze remains fixed on him as he approaches the imposing school complex. A young woman's weary, disillusioned eye is shown in a tight close-up. Walking ahead is a stout young man, his back burdened with a pack. He wears a work apron over his uniform as the girl watches from afar. His gloved hand is seen tightly gripping the handles of several shopping bags. A classmate with dark hair and glasses approaches him, observing his hard work. The classmate smirks, commenting on the phrasing of the young man's explanation. Suda clarifies he is carrying supplies for Class D after cleaning their dorm. A glimpse of their hands reveals the details of their adventuring school uniforms. The three students are now seen together on the school path. A close-up on Suda's face shows his serious, slightly plump features. Inside a classroom, a larger student boasts about his brother's prestigious party invitation. Another student expresses amazement at his connection to the famous Colors organization. Suda finds the young woman, Kaoru, in his seat and plainly tells her so. Her party leader, Yuma, asks if she will join their dive to the 6th floor. Kaoru's expression is downcast, her eyes lowered in silent refusal. She states her desire to train alone, but wishes her party good luck. A memory shows her walking alone in workout clothes down a wooded path. Her thoughts reveal she has stopped going on dungeon dives with Yuma's group. She recalls once feeling comfortable fighting alongside them against a monstrous wolf. That feeling twisted into a sense of being forced by some unseen pressure. Back in the present, she follows Suda home, keeping a noticeable distance. She contemplates what kind of excuse she should use to talk to him. Her hand rises to her chin, her expression troubled and lost in thought. Suda suddenly stops, catching her completely off guard with a soft, "Oh." He turns to her with genuine concern, asking if something has happened lately. She reflects on the distance he has kept between them since school started. Her troubled feelings were apparently obvious enough for him to notice. Trying to deflect, she claims she was just shocked that Yuma lost his fight. Suda presses her further, his gaze intense as he asks if she's disappointed. His direct question breaks her composure, her mouth falling open in surprise. She confesses that she simply didn't want to see her friend lose. Standing before a house, she admits her profound sense of disappointment. She tearfully reveals she lacks the confidence to continue at the adventure school. Suda listens to her confession, his expression serious and unreadable. A distorted, smiling face flashes through the frame, a stark visual break. His eye is shown in close-up, a glint of quiet understanding within it. He advises her to simply do what she sees, assuring her it's enough. He glances back over his shoulder as he walks away, checking on her. The next day, Suda arrives in class, his expression one of surprise. He walks down the aisle while Kaoru stands just inside the classroom door. One of her classmates sits in his seat, forcefully telling her no. A simple drawing of a mouth conveys a silent, firm rejection. Kaoru takes a single, resolute step forward into the room. She stands before the class as Suda offers a cheerful morning greeting. Suda's friendly "good morning" is directed at everyone in the room. With her head bowed, Kaoru announces she will rejoin their dungeon dives. She offers a sincere apology to her party for leaving them. Her party members react with surprise. Yuma notes her strong mentality. A female member finds her delicate side cute, while another offers no comment. As her party welcomes her, Kaoru's gaze drifts towards Suda in the background. A young woman with a long ponytail gazes forward, her expression focused and serious. From a low angle, a young man watches her walk away up a set of stairs. The scene is set on the forested and rocky dungeon floor 6. Now in a forest, the young woman, Kaoru, faces a massive, snarling white wolf. Her expression is determined as she places a hand on the hilt of her sword. A companion, Yuma, shouts encouragement, urging Kaoru to deliver the finishing blow. He strikes the wolf with a powerful blow, creating an opening for her to attack. An internal thought reveals Yuma could have defeated the beast himself, but chose not to. Kaoru understands that Yuma is intentionally giving her the credit for the kill. Her mind flashes back, recalling the events that have led her to this moment. She reflects on the process and the struggles she has faced unseen by others. With a surge of determination, Kaoru raises her katana high, preparing to strike. A glowing LVL-7 appears above her as she successfully defeats the monster. Her thoughts drift to the modern school building, the site of recent turmoil. A bright, cloudy sky marks the passage of time and a shift in her perspective. Her first thought after leveling up is an urgent need to thank a boy named Suda. In the background, her party celebrates their victory, but her focus has already moved on. Back at school the next day, she finds Suda's desk is empty and he is absent. A flashback reveals his sister Kano, celebrating her own joyous level up to 7. Kano explains to Suda what she has learned from a month of dungeon exploration. She has discovered secret hunting spots like the bridge trap and a hidden door. These locations, she clarifies, were found by players and are not common knowledge. She confirmed this information with an acquaintance, Kikuchi-san, leaving no room for doubt. Despite this, Kano admits that one aspect of their situation still bothers her. Suda interrupts, his expression serious as he asks her about the game's DLC. He explains that since leveling is getting harder, they must dive to the 7th floor. With his extensive knowledge, he reveals they can acquire the armored knight job there. Kano quietly processes this new information about the powerful job class. Suda's face lights up with manic excitement, declaring his plan to create and control golems. The next chapter is introduced, DLC, A Golem's Heart, showing a grand city. The narrator explains a flaw of the armored knight job. Their golem mounts are slow. The new job class was not very popular among players, its reception being lackluster. A rugged, rocky landscape sets the scene for their new and ambitious journey. Another weakness of the job is that the player is often weaker than their golem. For someone trapped in this world, however, it is the most convenient job to choose. Kano lets out a cry of shock, utterly surprised by this revelation. Her eyes widen in disbelief as she questions if such a powerful skill truly exists. Suda, pleased with himself, declares they must go and investigate this new job. Fired up with enthusiasm, Kano insists they leave immediately to learn more. Suda agrees, adding that there is also a good hunting ground on their path. The two adventurers walk side by side, their new journey beginning in earnest. As they continue their trek, a new thought suddenly occurs to Kano. She reveals that she has possessed the two-sword style skill from the very start. Suda notes that having a starting skill is an incredibly rare and lucky occurrence. He erupts in comical anger, asking why she didn't tell him about it sooner. Calming down, Suda mentions that his gluttony is also a starting skill. He thoughtfully considers the implications of her having the two-sword style ability. An explanation reveals it is a high-ranking skill that allows for powerful dual-wielding. Suda asks Kano if she has ever fought a monster head-on, which she denies. He informs her a demon wolf is on their path, presenting her first true combat trial. A young man declares he will leave the next demon wolf fight to his companion. With a bright smile and a thumbs up, she enthusiastically accepts the challenge. The dark-haired adventurer walks with a serious expression through the dense woods. Continuing his journey, he moves deeper into the imposing forest. A monstrous white warg suddenly appears, calmly trotting beside the unsuspecting young man. His eyes fly open in sudden, sharp alarm as he senses the change. His companion's gaze becomes focused and intense, reflecting the newfound tension. Suda exchanges a silent, urgent glance with his friend, confirming the danger. Wearing tall lace-up boots, Kano takes a low, ready stance for combat. The two adventurers and the now hostile warg stand poised for battle. Their eyes are wide with focus as the tense standoff begins. The massive beast lets out a ferocious roar, its maw open wide. Kano lunges forward with fierce determination to meet the creature's charge. The warg's cavernous mouth, filled with sharp teeth, opens to attack her. Her eyes widen in pure shock as she realizes her lunge was a mistake. She cries out, falling as the monster's jaw snaps shut just above her. A massive white wolf roars ferociously as Kano stumbles backward on the forest floor. She scrambles away in terror, narrowly dodging the beast's snapping jaws. The frustrated warg turns and bites a thick tree branch, showing its immense strength. Looking up from the ground, Kano's fear is replaced by a quiet, determined resolve. Her companion, Suda, watches the intense confrontation with a focused, unreadable expression. The beast lunges again, its mouth wide open in a furious, deafening roar. A close-up on Kano's eye reveals her absolute concentration, ready to face the attack. With a swift, graceful movement, she dodges the lunge and lands a powerful counterblow. Her incredible strike sends the massive wolf flying through the air, defeated. Suda watches in stunned disbelief, his mind reeling from her unexpected display of power. Turning back, Kano proudly asks if her companion witnessed her incredible strength. Suda wonders if everyone in this world possesses such incredible natural talent. He concludes that he is simply relieved to have her fighting on his side. Suddenly, a long, mournful howl echoes through the forest, startling them both. Suda looks up, immediately identifying the sound as the cry of another warg. A dark premonition strikes him, realizing the path to this point was deceptively easy. From a ruined archway, he gazes at a distant castle, reflecting on his effortless progress. His confidence crumbles before the grand fortress, realizing he forgot a crucial countermeasure. A vision of a regal throne room hints at the powerful entity awaiting them inside. A dark, fragmented memory shows a defeated skeletal beast, a piece of the forgotten danger. Seated on the throne is a horned skeleton king. The worst part has finally arrived. Their journey took them through a serene forest with a mysterious, honeycomb-like structure floating nearby. They then navigated a macabre corridor, its walls lined with countless grinning skulls. Emerging from the passage, the young man and his companion continue their determined advance. The girl excitedly points out a massive, ornate gate set into the castle wall. Relieved to have found it, the young man suggests they register their magic power. His companion looks up with wide-eyed curiosity, questioning if it is truly permissible. Inside a vine-choked hall, he states his goals: the Armored Knight and Faker skills. The Faker skill is explained as an ability belonging to the illustrated thief job. He clarifies a game mechanic, showing his companion how training can expand her skill capacity. The ultimate prize is envisioned: powerful male and female warriors in full Armored Knight gear. A final image depicts a mighty golem commanded in battle, the true power they seek. On a grand vine-covered balcony, a young woman asks her brother if the location is suitable. Amidst overgrown grass, the young man surveys the area and confirms that the spot looks good. He points out their goal is near, suggesting they rest, and she agrees. Their path takes them across a long, crumbling stone bridge. An incredibly vast and ornate citadel with countless spires rises before them. She wonders if it is a fortress, but he explains it's a citadel for golems. The two adventurers, now armed, begin their approach to the grand structure. From above, the pair looks small as they cross the wide cobblestone courtyard. They pass beneath the heavy, spiked portcullis of the imposing castle gate. Inside, a colossal wood golem forms a living archway, guarding the entrance. Both are taken by surprise, the young man letting out a cry of alarm. He cautiously observes that the massive creature is not attacking them. She explains the golem is passive, pointing out a quest item on its back. He marvels that it looks like a jewel, and she confirms its high price. A vision reveals a powerful horned demoness calmly smoking an elegant pipe. A closer look shows the refined, high-heeled shoe of this mysterious figure. This is the proprietor of the fabled Obaba's shop on the 10th floor. He laments they can't reach it now, but must go there to sell their prize. The heavy-set young man reacts with an expression of utter disbelief. Standing beside his female companion, a carrot dangles comically over his head. He decides they should explore the area, gently guiding his partner forward. In a vast courtyard, he cautions her to stay alert for skeletons. Approaching a large door, his posture is steady and prepared for what's inside. A ghastly skeleton suddenly lunges at the pair from the darkened corridor. Unaware of another skeleton clinging to the ceiling, they cautiously proceed down the hall. His expression becomes thoughtful as he considers their next move. Before ornate doors, he speculates about treasure hidden within the room. With a decisive push, he begins to swing the heavy doors inward. Peeking through the opening, he carefully surveys the space beyond. Inside, a formidable skeletal king sits silently upon its grand throne. Seeing its horns and armor, he realizes it is no ordinary monster. He assesses it as a level 8 foe, while she directs his attention to its feet. Beneath the throne, a small, drawer-like compartment is visible in the shadows. Misinterpreting her focus, he quietly asks if she wants to fight it. With a grim expression, the young man firmly voices his refusal. Their boots tread across the stone floor as they journey through the castle. Before a grand door, the girl suggests they fight golems first to prepare. They take a brief rest in a courtyard by an overgrown fountain. An imposing, sprawling citadel stands as their ultimate destination. The following day, they resume their exploration of the vast structure. Preoccupied, the young man wonders if a girl named Karu is all right. He realizes his own words likely caused her distress, a deviation from the game. He had wanted to ask about the static sword but decided to wait. His sister's voice snaps him back to the present moment. Turning, his attention is caught by the new weapon his sister now carries. She stands in the ruined hall, shouldering a massive, intimidating greatsword. His eyes suddenly fly open in utter shock at an unexpected discovery. In a clearing, he finds the charred, extinguished remains of a bonfire. Staring at the logs, he questions the impossible sight before him. A frantic realization dawns that his assumptions about this place were wrong. The young man's eyes widen in shock as his assumptions about the area are shattered. Walking past a vine-covered building, he reasons that others must still be somewhere nearby. A young man with wild dark hair turns suddenly, shouting a warning of imminent danger. Startled by the cry, he and his blonde companion, Kano, look on with shocked expressions. A man with a ponytail casually greets them, asking for food as his group is starving. In a grid-patterned hallway, the young man wonders why this stranger approached him so directly. Kano confronts the newcomers, demanding to know why they are in this restricted area. The ponytailed man begins to explain their story, recounting how they cornered a warg. His tale continues with an image of his party falling into a strange, honeycomb-like pit. After regrouping, he explains, they discovered a hidden tunnel deep within the hole. A brilliant flash of light signifies their disorienting arrival in this new location. The group of three now stands inside a vast, dilapidated castle hall. The dark-haired young man internally concludes they are just lost explorers who arrived by accident. Their leader worries about his inability to return home while his companions are with him. His concern for their predicament is immediately overshadowed by a bellowing cry for food. The entire trio begs for sustenance, pleading that they have reached their absolute physical limits. Hesitantly, Kano offers a small wrapped box of food to the desperate adventurers. The young man internally expresses his annoyance, wishing to be rid of the group quickly. Having eaten, their leader enthusiastically declares his intention to explore the castle. The dark-haired youth questions the wisdom of going deeper instead of returning home. Their leader insists that finding an unexplored map on the 7th floor makes exploration necessary. Resigned to the situation, the young man considers the unwelcome development a pain. He understands their flawed logic stems from their ignorance of the dungeon's gate system. As they walk on, Kano expresses her disappointment at having lost her meal. She wrinkles her nose in disgust, noting that the newcomers have an unpleasant odor. Kano then confidently boasts that her brother is surely a higher level than any of them. Her brother cautions her, explaining that one can never be certain of such things. She suggests using her simple appraisal skill, but he sharply orders her to stop. A text box explains the skill reveals an opponent's stats but alerts them to the scan. The explanation continues, stating that using it on a monster increases its aggression. Kano concludes that this is precisely why using it on other people is considered rude. Now at the castle's main gate, the group pauses as their leader has a new thought. The leader asks if the young man can tell them their stats, and he agrees. The ponytailed man, Dekra, expresses surprise that he can even use simple appraisal. Dekra's companions find it strange that he hasn't changed his job class yet. With wide-eyed wonder, Kano eagerly encourages her brother to proceed with the appraisal. An interface displays the names, levels, and jobs of the three newly met adventurers. Kano leans in close to her brother, asking him what information he has gathered. He recalls a previous plan to abandon their hunting ground after a few more kills. In his memory, a suspicious Dekura asks what he is whispering about. The young man cheerfully suggests they split into two groups for greater efficiency. The grand ornate spires of the castle city stretch across the distant horizon. A memory shows the young man standing over the defeated form of a large tree monster. He remembers his plan to destroy its core and sell it later to become stronger. Kano's disappointed face appears as she recalls him not waiting for her to join the fight. Her expression then shifts to one of absolute confidence, guaranteeing his success. In the present, Dekura suggests they should take their time and return home. He explains that his party discovered a strange, powerful skeleton inside the castle. His gaze shifts from the skeletal king on its throne to meet the young man's eyes. Dekura formally proposes they form a 5-person party to fight the powerful foe. Kano and her brother exchange a serious, unreadable glance. With a gentle smile, the young man politely declines the offer, leaving Dekura stunned. An adventurer named Dekura shouts, asserting his party's status as a branch of the powerful Colors group. His companions recognize the siblings he's addressing, recalling their connection to a famous party. A heavyset young man, Suda, politely declines Dekura's offer, claiming his group would only be a burden. Caught in a bind, Dekura internally weighs the fear of the castle's monster against offending the siblings. Suda's sister Kano gently intervenes, suggesting that arguing is not a good idea. A close look at Kano's eyes reveals a flicker of surprise at her brother's sudden change of heart. Abruptly reversing his decision, Suda announces that they will gladly accept the offer to team up. The newly formed 5-person party proceeds down a corridor toward a large, ornate door. Taking charge, Suda suggests they first use simple appraisal on whatever lies beyond the doors. He confidently assesses their chances, believing they can handle any foe up to level 10. One of Dekura's companions, Kazuya, worries internally about facing a much stronger monster. Peering through a crack in the door, Kazuya's face contorts in absolute shock at what he sees. He pushes the door open slightly, his expression one of pure, unadulterated terror. Stumbling backward in fear, Kazuya exclaims that what he sees is impossible. He continues to recoil, his scream of alarm echoing through the stone hall. Suda's own face registers utter disbelief at the appraisal results for the creature. With a shout, he reveals the horrifying truth. The monster is level 25. A terrifying skeletal knight in dark armor emerges, its power far exceeding their expectations. Dekura lets out a raw, desperate scream, yelling his companion Kazuya's name in horror. He and his other party member, Akihisa, look on, their faces masks of shock and fear. The skeletal knight takes a slow, menacing step forward, its presence overwhelming the group. Akihisa questions why such a powerful monster is on this floor as Suda yells for Kano to run. Kano, dressed in a simple hoodie, is caught completely off guard by the sudden chaos. She stumbles amidst the panic, her eyes wide with shock and fear. Having fallen to the hard stone floor, she looks up in dazed helplessness. Dekura bravely steps forward, knife in hand, declaring that they cannot simply run away. His eyes narrow with grim resolve, unwilling to let everyone die there. From the floor, Kano looks on, her expression filled with shock and fear. She cries out her brother's name in betrayal as she watches him and Akihisa flee. Suda's face is shown in profile, his expression unreadable as he runs away. His feet pound against the stone floor, carrying him further from the danger. Putting on a burst of speed, his retreating form becomes a blur of motion. The background streaks with lines, emphasizing his rapid and seemingly cowardly escape. Having created a significant distance, Suda stops, a cruel, mocking smirk on his face. He taunts the remaining party members, calling their sacrifice a necessary one. Turning to continue his escape, he leaves his sister and her defenders to their fate. Kano reaches a desperate hand out towards her retreating brother. Her head bows in despair, her hopes seemingly crushed by his betrayal. The scene shifts to a memory from 7 years ago, showing a young girl's back. On a playground, a young Kano is being confronted by 2 other boys. The camera focuses on her face, revealing her determination despite the situation. Tears of frustration well in her eyes as the bullies surround her. They taunt her, claiming the rules of Budo prevent her from fighting back. One of the bullies sneers, angry that she had passed him in a marathon. With a powerful voice, she yells at them to stop their harassment. A young Suda suddenly intervenes, pushing the bullies away as Kano calls his name in surprise. He glares at them, calling them hypocrites for picking on her. He declares that he is unconcerned with the rules of Kendo. With a furious roar, he proclaims his readiness to fight them all to protect her. The aftermath shows the 2 of them bruised but together, a testament to his past heroism. A young girl offers her quiet thanks to a bruised Suda, who notes she was also hurt. Looking back on the memory, she recalls how they both got beaten, confessing her fear. Her thoughts reveal a deep admiration for her heroic brother, who could do what she couldn't. In the present, the now older Suda turns his back, clad in heavy adventurer's gear. His sister Kano watches in disbelief, questioning if her brother has truly abandoned her. From the side, a cruel voice laughs, finding the apparent betrayal utterly hilarious. Suda walks down the corridor, his expression shadowed and unreadable. A terrifying horned skeletal knight looms over the helpless, despairing Kano. With a sharp, angry gaze, Suda refutes the idea he would ever run away. He prepares to unleash a powerful, named attack, Void/Shock. A massive energy blade narrowly misses Kano, smashing into the corridor wall. For a brief moment, tears stream from Suda's eyes from the immense emotional strain. Kano looks up in shock to see her brother standing between her and the knight. His cape billows as he stands firm, his back to his sister facing the enemy. His expression transforms into one of grim determination, steam rising from his body. A massive explosion of dust marks his swift return to his sister's side. Apologizing for his lateness, he explains he had to avoid being seen by his foes. He questions if she truly thought he was going to abandon her to her fate. Kano's expression shows that deep down, she never truly doubted his loyalty. Suda's eyes are wide with resolve, the impending battle his only focus. She urges him to run and save himself, even if it means she must be sacrificed. With unwavering conviction, he declares his intention to defeat their monstrous opponent. Facing the skeletal knight, he draws his sword, ready to begin the duel. With a fierce cry, he initiates a new tactic, demanding they change places. He slams his hand down, shattering the stone floor and creating a deep chasm. The two combatants face each other across the new trench, ready for battle. His thoughts reveal the source of his power, his abilities from inside the game. He reflects on how he can somehow use his game skills in this new reality. Considering his limited mana, he confirms activating 3 specific, powerful skills. The first is Satanakia's Stem Cell, a high-cost regeneration ability. His second choice is Shadow Step, greatly increasing his agility and evasion rate. The final skill is Overdrive, a temporary but massive boost to his combat reflexes. Standing amidst the rubble, he prepares himself, his posture tense and determined. His eyes narrow as he activates Simple Appraisal to analyze his powerful enemy. The appraisal reveals the foe's identity. Wolgamut, a level 25 unique boss. Wolgamut makes a graceful gesture with its hand, preparing to engage. The skeletal knight leaps effortlessly across the chasm, closing the distance instantly. Suda knows he has no time for a tactical fight and must press the attack. He plants his foot firmly on the rubble, preparing to launch himself forward. With a determined expression, he rushes in to meet the boss head-on. They clash, but he feels the severe limitations of fighting in a level 10 body. He laments his inability to perform with the power he had as a top-ranked player. The force of the blow sends him reeling backward, completely outmatched. He recalls using a powerful doping potion just to be able to use his skills. The immense strain of the fight is clearly visible on his pained face. His expression is one of pure exertion as he pushes his body to its limit. He knows this enhanced state will only last for a total of 2 minutes. Wolgamut unleashes a devastating barrage of magical attacks down the corridor. Suda's face is a mask of desperate focus as he weathers the onslaught. The skeletal knight's skull seems to form a confident, knowing grin. A massive explosion rips through the stone hall, sending debris flying in all directions. With a look of intense exertion, Suda confronts the imposing, armored skeletal knight. He desperately parries a powerful blow, his face contorted in a pained grimace. The knight's skull-like face is revealed in a chilling close-up, its gaze intelligent. Suda's body flickers with static energy, showing the immense strain of his power. His face is a mask of shock and fierce determination as he faces the attack. A tight focus on his eye reveals his unwavering concentration amidst the chaos. A massive blast of energy, launched by the knight, tears through the corridor. He realizes with dawning horror that the undead creature is reading his every move. His inner thoughts reveal the agonizing physical toll of forcefully using his skills. His form flickers violently, his body beginning to break down under the pressure. Gritting his teeth, he pushes through the immense pain caused by his own power. A wild, blood-stained grin spreads across his face as he admits this wasn't planned. He sits on rubble, questioning if his formidable opponent is underestimating him. A blur of motion signifies the devastating blow that sends him hurtling backward. Flying through the air over the ruined city, he is a living symbol of disaster. Twisting mid-flight, his face shows ecstatic resolve as he prepares to counterattack. The skeletal knight, Wolgamut, is shown in its full, intimidating glory. His eyes burn with battle lust as he activates his powerful aerial skill. Their swords clash in a brilliant shower of sparks, echoing through the desolation. The two warriors are locked in a desperate struggle, burning their lives away. In a quiet, sterile hall, Kano sits alone, a dejected and helpless observer. Suda engages the knight in close combat, his expression one of pure focus. He explains his favorite skill, aerial, for creating invisible mid-air footholds. The skeletal knight looks on, its expression unreadable beneath its horned helmet. With only 30 seconds left on his power-up, the pressure mounts on Suda. Using aerial, he becomes a blur of motion, attacking from every angle. The knight is momentarily taken aback by his unorthodox, high-speed assault. His attack is suddenly stopped as the knight reveals its true hidden power. The knight stands firm, unleashing a dark, crackling aura that warps the air. Suda realizes with horror that his foe was only using its oppressive aura. A chilling, knowing grin seems to spread across the knight's skeletal face. His foot stomps down on an invisible platform, bracing for his next attack. His face hardens with a new, almost suicidal resolve to continue the fight. Far away, Kano sits with her head bowed, her long hair obscuring her face. She believes her brother will win, but feels she will always be a burden. She blames her own weakness for her brother's battered, desperate condition. Her internal monologue questions if she even has the right to cheer for him. Picturing their brutal clash, her despair begins to shift into desperate hope. Her self-pity transforms into a powerful, desperate desire for him to win. She lets out a raw, heartfelt scream, begging for her brother to win. Her cry seems to reach him, fueling a primal roar of his own. he stomps down on his aerial platforms, breaking the knight's powerful guard. Unleashing a relentless barrage of attacks, he becomes a whirlwind of destruction. His sword slashes create a web of energy, overwhelming the knight's defenses. The skeletal warrior is forced into a desperate retreat, blocking frantically. His assault creates a complex cage of light and energy around his foe. The relentless storm of blows forces the knight back, its guard broken. The knight's skeletal face is shown in profile, its defeat now imminent. A final decisive blow smashes through, sending the knight hurtling backward. Hanging upside down, a young man invokes the power of his ultimate skills, Air Break and Blade of Agars. The resulting attack sends his skeletal knight opponent crashing into a grand cathedral, causing a massive explosion. From a high ledge, he looks down at the dark, shadowy form of his defeated foe. His finger points forward, a glowing sigil manifesting as he activates a powerful ability. He hangs inverted in midair, channeling the devastating power of the Blade of Agaras. Focusing his energy, he prepares his Air Break skill for the final, decisive strike. A cataclysmic explosion of light engulfs the entire ruined city, a testament to his immense power. From a safe distance, his sister Kano looks up in awe, witnessing the incredible spectacle. His former companions, a muscular blonde and a dark-haired man, stare in stunned silence. The deafening roar of the blast echoes across the landscape with overwhelming force. On the battlefield, the ground is torn asunder, rubble and debris flying from the impact. Billowing clouds of dust and smoke rise from the crater at the center of the devastation. His thoughts form a quiet apology to Butao for pushing the body so far past its limits. Panting heavily, his body a canvas of wounds, he admits that he truly surpassed his limits. He stands alone amidst the ruins, his tattered clothes barely hanging on his exhausted frame. With tears of relief and exhaustion streaming down his face, he begins to claim his victory. Looking down at the broken form of Volgamut, he declares that this is his win. As the knight's remains dissipate into smoke, he quietly acknowledges that the fight was fun. Elsewhere, Kano gasps, clutching her chest as if struck by a wave of sympathetic pain. A chilling resolve forms as she laments her helplessness and vows that she must level up. In a quiet, sterile room, she gets to her feet with a new and determined purpose. Her boots touch the ground with conviction as she prepares to rush to her brother's side. She breaks into a frantic run, her pigtails flying as she dashes across the stone causeway, crying out her brother's name, Oni! Swinging toward his fallen, battered form. His strength finally spent, the young man Suda collapses backward onto the unforgiving rubble. Kano's face reveals a complex expression of relief, sorrow, and immense pride. Arriving at his side, she urgently asks her brother, her Oni, if he is okay. Suda pants heavily, his face bruised and battered from the brutal and draining conflict. He reassures her that he's fine, explaining that his legs are just completely worn out. His body betrays his words as he apologizes and admits that he is about to faint. Lying with his head in her lap, his composure finally breaks, his eyes glistening with tears. He whispers a heartfelt thank you, expressing his gratitude for her support through the ordeal. A cherished memory of a happier time with his former party flashes through his mind. A jolt of alarm suddenly flashes through his mind, signaling a new and pressing concern. Kano asks again about the state of his body, her face filled with genuine worry. Suda confirms his legs are useless but will heal, though he knows it will take time. He explains he can't go to the school's medical office to avoid their simple appraisal. Looking away from her, he offers a heavy apology for the difficult situation he's created. Kano's expression is one of profound sadness as she learns that his legs were cut. His face is grim, burdened by the heavy consequences of his recent life-or-death choices. With Suda unable to walk, Kano carries him on her back through the desolate ruins. A small pool of blood on the ground marks where he had been lying after the battle. He kneels before a makeshift grave, his hands clasped in a gesture of solemn respect. Kano watches him silently from behind, her expression unreadable, but deeply attentive. Looking over at Kano, he confesses that he chose to fight the knight of his own will. He reveals that he possessed a skill that would have allowed him to carry her and flee. Kano listens with wide-eyed surprise as he continues his difficult and heartfelt confession. A flashback shows his former comrades as he explains he couldn't bear to abandon them. His voice thick with anguish, he admits that his decision got her injured in the process. Overwhelmed by guilt, he bows low, crying out a profound and desperate apology to her. A young blonde woman stares into the distance, her expression thoughtful and silent. Her gaze softens into a gentle smile as she offers a simple reassurance that it's okay. Kneeling before a prostrating young man, she explains her forgiveness is because he was the one who made the choice. His face shadowed and intense, shows the profound emotional weight of her words. Putting the heavy moment aside, she readjusts her backpack, ready to move forward. He questions the wisdom of burying their foe, fearing the dungeon's repair ability might revive it. The young man elaborates on how the dungeon absorbs foreign objects and even repairs broken traps. This regenerative power, he notes, extends to the entire castle and even to corpses. Despite their foe's inevitable disappearance, a pained memory confirms his need for this closure. He insists that performing this ritual of remembrance is still incredibly important. As they stand by the grave, a deep, persistent rumbling sound begins to fill the air. The blonde girl looks up in alarm, her eyes wide with surprise at the sudden noise. Her companion also turns his head, his expression serious as he listens to the growing rumble. The sound's source is revealed to be the sprawling city on the dungeon's 10th floor. The tension breaks as the girl holds a huge bag of food, asking if he can eat it all. Leaning back with a confident grin, the young man declares that it will be no problem. Now sitting together, she asks if it's truly safe for them on this high-level floor. He explains their plan to visit Obaba's shop, where he intends to get healed. He frantically notes that going to the school for healing would expose his true level. The school is fiercely competitive, and discovery would surely lead to trouble for them. Their stats are revealed, both are level 19, with Suda having Gluttony and Kano two-sword style. Just as they prepare to leave, a look of sudden, jarring realization crosses his face. Now in the dungeon, she asks what kind of items Oba-chan's shop sells. He corrects her pronunciation and lightly scolds her for not treasuring her clothes more. A vision of an ornate building appears as he explains the shop's incredible value. His eyes narrow with a calculating glint as he forms a plan to resell its items. He confirms they will need to get permission from the head of the family first. Their need for money is desperate, as his own adventuring equipment is incomplete. He generously promises his sister any leftover funds from their new venture. The young man stands at the bottom of a long flight of stairs, his legs still injured. His sister, having reached the top, calls down to him as he struggles to ascend. At the top of the stairs, her hand reaches out to activate a circular stone mechanism. She points to a doorway, confirming that Oba-chan's shop is just ahead. From below, he screams her name, panicking that he didn't warn her about the guardian. A monstrous horned beast, the gatekeeper, looms over her, letting out a ferocious roar. Frozen in terror, her hands still on the mechanism, she turns to face the nightmare. The beast's massive form lunges forward, its speed a terrifying blur of motion. The narrow corridor seems to press in, trapping her with the charging monster. Debris explodes around her as the gatekeeper's attack makes a devastating impact. In the aftermath, she looks over her shoulder, shocked by the sudden turn of events. The monster is gone, replaced by a beautiful demon woman asking who they called Oba-chan. This is Furufuru, a voluptuous demon over 1,000 years old and a knowledgeable dungeon advisor. Suda warns his companions that calling the shop's proprietor Granny is a dangerous mistake. They step inside the spacious, well-stocked shop, Suda leading the way with purpose. From behind the counter, Furufuru watches them with a calm, unreadable expression. Kano marvels at a mithril weapon, impressed that Suda knows so much about it. She notes that the mithril alloy blade would sell for at least $1 million at the guild. Still thinking in terms of her world, she asks if they use yen as currency here. He shakes his head, explaining that payment is made with dungeon currency or magic stones. He gestures to the spoils from their past battles, identifying them as their main capital. Holding a small pouch, a young man named Suta states they have about 138 copper coins. The elegant demoness shopkeeper, Furufuru, listens with a cool, detached expression. Approaching her, Suda politely requests a recovery from the abnormal effects of his battles. Furufuru agrees but sets the price at 3 copper coins, which Suda readily accepts. From her grand chair, the imposing shopkeeper rises to perform the service. A close view of their feet highlights the contrast between his rugged boots and her delicate shoes. Her gloved hand gently reaches out, taking his chin to begin the healing process. With intense focus, she leans in extremely close, staring directly into his eyes. Her gaze remains sharp and analytical, her eye magnified in a close-up. After a moment of silent inspection, she lets out a soft breath, her examination complete. She claps her hands together with a sharp crack, unleashing a potent burst of magic. The force of the spell causes Suda's legs to tremble and buckle beneath him. His balance lost, he begins to stumble forward helplessly. With a startled cry, he asks her to wait, unable to stop his fall. Furufuru swiftly catches him, her hand covering his mouth to steady him. Held firmly in her grasp, Suta's face flushes with embarrassment. He internally wishes she would be more gentle, knowing his sister is watching. Pulling back slightly, Furufuru acknowledges that she may have overdone the treatment. As an apology for her intensity, she offers to heal his eyes for free. Her gloved finger moves delicately towards his eyelid to begin the second procedure. Looking away bashfully, he accepts her offer and thanks her for her help. She notes he pushed himself too far, and he confirms there was an irregular issue. His thoughts turn to the powerful boss, its presence on the 7th floor still a mystery. He admits he only ventured into that dangerous citadel to get the armored knight job. Hearing this, his sister Kano expresses her own desire to change her job class. Furufuru explains they can use the crystal inside her shop to facilitate the change. On a plush cushion rests a large, perfectly clear crystal ball. Kano notes its ordinary appearance, and Suda quietly agrees with her assessment. Despite its plain look, he approaches the crystal with a serious, focused expression. He places his hand on the smooth surface, initiating the job-changing process. A subtle energy begins to glow from the crystal, reacting to his touch. The well-stocked interior of the shop provides the backdrop for their transformation. A status panel confirms Narumi Suda is now registered as a level 19 thief. Likewise, Narumi Kano's status is updated, showing she is also a level 19 thief. As they prepare to leave, Suda expresses his hope to be a future customer. Furufuru welcomes this, admitting she was lonely without any recent visitors. Just as they depart, she recalls that another human had come to her shop. The siblings stop in their tracks, surprised by this unexpected revelation. Suda remembers his library research, which showed this area was completely undocumented. He urgently asks her to describe the mysterious person who visited her. She apologizes, explaining that she finds it difficult to recall the features of humans. However, she does remember that the visitor left without purchasing a single item. She pauses for a moment, another crucial detail about the encounter surfacing in her mind. The visitor's only action was to ask a single, strange question. Had someone else come here? Suda immediately concludes that this mysterious visitor must be another player. He realizes that the other players he's encountered didn't just find this place by chance. The shop is a unique haven where one can buy items with magic stones. Its location is also special, situated on a path completely devoid of monsters. He finds it illogical that any player would find such a place and not buy anything. His suspicion falls on the unknown person who intervened in the duel between Akagi and Korea. The demon shopkeeper, Furufuru, states that she has no friends. Upon returning home, Suda apologizes for making his sister skip school. Kano's expression is distant and unreadable, her true feelings hidden. She announces her intent to go rest in her room and walks away. Suda is left alone, looking startled by a sudden, unexpected sight. At the dining table, Kaoru smugly eats a meal with his family. A full view emphasizes Kaoru's surprising presence within the home. He reacts with shock, and she explains she came because he missed school. With a mischievous smile, Kaoru begins to tease him about his absence. She whispers her guest that he was defeated by a slime again. Her taunt hits its mark, leaving Suda gritting his teeth in humiliation. In a hallway, Kano questions if his absence was from a near-death battle. Suda frantically denies her suggestion, insisting that wasn't what happened. Kano replies with a simple, unconvinced acknowledgement of his words. Frustrated by her disbelief, Suda's hand clenches tightly into a fist. His sister watches him, her expression serious and contemplating. Walking away, he announces his desire to apologize for his actions. He begins to explain what happened when she reached out to him. A different girl in a uniform offers a warm and sincere thank you. Suda appears flustered and nervous following their brief interaction. Alone on a balcony, he feels a sudden, overwhelming wave of anxiety. This strange feeling of nervousness about the situation grips him tightly. His mind races, fixated on the need to avoid using simple appraisal. He and the girl part ways, heading in opposite directions. He reflects that she is completely different from her game persona. Since he didn't become a healer, he resolves to be extremely careful. Arriving at his apartment door, he lets out a deep sigh of relief. He stands before the entrance to the Narumi household, his sanctuary. He recalls that this home is the only place he can truly relax. His thoughts turn to his doting father, Daisuke, who manages their shop. He then remembers his kind and beautiful mother, Sayuki, a guild employee. The pressure of being seen as the family's outstanding son weighs on him. Standing at the threshold, he admits he keeps a profound secret from them. The first secret is the truth that he has taken over Suda's body. His second secret is that he brought Kano into the dangerous dungeons. He decides to reveal the dungeon diving now that Kano is level 19. His father greets him, casually mentioning his holiday dungeon trip. He walks onward, wondering how his family will react to his confession. His father summons him to the dining room, where the family is waiting. Daisuke asks for a moment of his son's time, his expression serious. Suda quietly agrees, bracing himself for the difficult conversation. His face reveals his shock and anxiety as the family intervention begins. His father places a mud-caked boot on the table, calling his name. Daisuke confirms that Kano has already told him about the dungeon diving. He adds that he also knows about the poor treatment of outsiders. Suda argues that it's necessary, especially for Kano's future ambitions. His father's fingers tap the table as he listens to his son's defense. He states that neither the law nor parents are absolute authorities. Suda is taken aback by his father's surprisingly understanding statement. Daisuke acknowledges the self-defense claim, but highlights Kano's illegal diving. A man with light hair, Daisuke, questions the need for his son to attend the adventure school. His son Suda hears him ask if it's too late to change schools now. Daisuke's hands are clasped firmly on the table, showing his unwavering and serious stance. He argues that one can become an adventurer without attending that specific, troublesome institution. Internally, Suda panics, fearing he will lose control of the story if he leaves. With a strained smile, he dismisses the issue as a simple matter of physique. His father immediately refutes this, asking why his sister Kano had to be brought along. Suda weakly claims Kano was just there for insurance, downplaying the obvious danger. Daisuke scoffs, wondering what kind of school requires such dangerous insurance for entry. Seated at the table, he emotionally states he cannot stand seeing his son getting hurt. Suda looks on, surprised by the depth of his father's worried feelings. Daisuke admits his concern is selfish, naming his family as his highest priority. He declares that his wife and children are the most important people to him. Suda is taken aback, questioning if he is truly the apple of his eye. The father's hands remain clasped, his posture unyielding and intensely serious. Looking directly at his son, Daisuke asserts that he is not joking around. Suda listens, a bead of sweat on his cheek, feeling the immense pressure. His mother Sayuki gently clarifies they are not trying to force him to leave. She expresses her confusion over his persistence in attending that particular school. Suda is shocked as she asks him the simple, direct question of why. A heavy silence falls over the family seated around the dining table. Internally, Suda knows the reason is not his to share with them. He feels he has no right to speak for the original Suda. He resolves that he must tell them the original Narumi Suda's motivation. A dramatic pause hangs in the air before his anticipated confession. A memory of a smiling girl surfaces, radiant with knowledge and shared feeling. Her voice echoes, explaining she felt everything so intensely as if it were her. Suda internally asks his old persona, Butao, if this new resolve is okay. Looking up with fierce determination, he declares his desire to protect someone. The scene returns to the family discussion, a worn boot on the table. Daisuke looks on with a serious, knowing expression, his gaze fixed. He points out that despite Suda's presence, Kano still returned home injured. Suda boldly counters that his father himself is also injured, gesturing to the boot. Kano looks up in shock, recognizing the implication of her father's past. A memory confirms Suda previously told her he fights for his own reasons. Kano looks on, a silent, complicated understanding dawning on her face. Suda's gaze is steady, having successfully made his point to his father. Daisuke apologizes, admitting he knows Kano did not want to get hurt. He looks over at his dark-haired wife, Sayuki, seeking her input. She watches the exchange with a soft, understanding smile on her face. Daisuke lays down his condition. For Kano to dive, a parent must follow. Suda is taken aback by this new, restrictive, and unexpected rule. Kano protests, worried about her father's low level being a liability. Her father leans forward, admitting he may not be as capable as others. He reminds them he was diving into dungeons long before they were born. His worn boot symbolizes a time he was too weak to protect his family. With pained intensity, he asks them to understand his desperate need to be there. He turns to his wife, asking if she agrees with this course of action. Sayuki closes her eyes, a look of quiet agreement on her face. She addresses her son by name, confirming her support for her husband's decision. A dark-haired woman at a table presents a young man with a choice. Beside her, a man with white hair admits they knowingly sent him into danger. The young man, his eyes downcast, rejects the premise and defers the decision. The woman accepts his choice with a quiet, simple thank you. A blonde girl with pigtails asks her sister Kano if she agrees with this. That night, a car drives away through a quiet residential neighborhood. In his bed, the young man lies with his head buried in his pillow. He tosses and turns, clearly unable to find any peaceful rest. Clutching his head, he realizes he completely forgot his family's feelings. The self-recrimination deepens. He feels he simply took advantage of them. He sits up in his messy room, his posture slumped in defeat. Now heavier, he muses about his desire to be accepted despite his weight. His expression shifts, a new resolve dawning on his face. He remembers a paper bag from a recent shopping trip. From it, he pulls a magic wand he purchased from Obaba's shop. He recalls that it allows for a higher class of appraisal skill. This powerful tool will provide a more detailed analysis than the standard menu. Gripping the wand tightly, he prepares to uncover the truth about himself. His notes reveal his stats: increased stamina, but unfortunately decreased agility. A key discovery is a skill that increases his appetite, explaining his hunger. He finally understands the reason his legs feel so weak despite his training. He acknowledges that the positive stat gains from leveling up are not bad. The young man realizes a specific skill is responsible for his rapid weight gain. His face shows immense frustration at a dead end in his research. One skill remains stubbornly unreadable, unable to be appraised by his wand. He slumps back in his chair, completely drained by the mental effort. Looking across his room, he apologizes to Butao, resigning himself to this body. He braces himself for school, planning to gather intel on other players. In the gymnasium, he dreads the announcement of sword lesson pairings. A wave of social anxiety washes over him as he sees his classmates. The teacher asks for unpaired students. He knows no one wants him. Wearing a bulky suit, he feels the situation is getting worse. He panics at the thought of pairing with the powerful teacher, Mirai. He stands frozen on the gym floor, a solitary and isolated figure. The young man reasons Mirai must be incredibly strong, an unmentioned game detail. A sparring match, he worries, would expose his hidden power level. He is startled when another student suddenly calls out Mirai's name. A girl with dark, braided hair approaches him with a serious expression. She expresses her gratitude and relief that he remembers her name, Umiya. She confirms that he too has not yet found a partner. She explains her usual partner is absent and asks to team up. His game knowledge identifies her as a named, non-heroine character. He concludes she is unlikely to be another player like himself. Flustered by the offer, he accepts, and she thanks him politely. The wide gymnasium is filled with students pairing up for practice. He stands awkwardly beside Umiya, watching the other students. The teacher Mirai approaches another lone student, Kuga. Kuga explains that her usual partner is also absent today. In the foreground, Kuga smiles while Suda and Umiya stand together. Suda looks up at his new partner, Umiya, with a surprised expression. With a stoic expression, Suda observes his new PE partner, Umiya Satsuki. Umiya, filled with excitement, declares that her youthful prime has finally arrived. His gaze drifts to Akagi sparring, his own expression one of surprise. Already panting and sweating, Suda struggles inside his cumbersome training suit. The narrative explains that the adventurer school, like any other, has clubs. The scene shifts to the interior of the first Kenjutsu club. During a fierce duel, a powerful strike sends one student flying. In the vast dojo, the match is declared over with the victor standing tall. The victorious girl explains she had her opponent fight their weakest member. She informs the defeated boy that winning would have granted him membership. From the balconies, onlookers mock the audacity of a Class E student. Akagi's party gossips, questioning if the victor is truly a strong fighter. Overhearing their comments, the girl's expression hardens with silent frustration. Her hand clenches into a tight fist, a clear sign of her anger. Inside a classroom, a blonde girl with a ponytail confronts Hayase Kaoru. Hayase looks up, startled by the sudden confrontation, asking what is wrong. The other members of the clique watch with serious, accusatory expressions. The girl coldly announces the party's decision to remove Hayase from their ranks. Hayase listens to the verdict, her face a mask of shock and hurt. Her accuser explains that their frontline fighter Akagi keeps getting injured. She cruelly suggests Hayase must have seduced her way into the party. Enraged by the personal attack, Hayase screams at her to be quiet. The bully continues her taunts, questioning if they aren't putting in enough effort. She accuses Hayase of leveling up only because of Akagi's hard work. With contempt, she hisses that Hayase must have looked down on them. Hayase's hand slams down hard on her desk in a fit of rage. A voice suddenly shouts, demanding that the bullying stop immediately. Umiya passionately defends Akagi's character, certain that everyone knows he is good. The clique members are stunned by Umiya's unexpected intervention for Hayase. One of the girls exclaims in disbelief that Umiya is also involved. A classmate questions Umiya's frequent meetings with the PE teacher, Mirai-sensei. Hayase, who had been confronting the bully, now looks down, reconsidering. Another girl stands up, creating a tense standoff with the aggressor. She reveals Umiya's true motive, establishing a club for the ostracized Class E. The bullies are left speechless, their expressions a mixture of surprise and uncertainty. Hayase reflects that she only joined the party because of good luck. Her party members worry about the significant gap in their level and experience. A friend expresses panic, realizing very few can support Yuma on the front lines. Overwhelmed by the pressure, Hayase bows her head, asking for protection. The narrative confirms that these events took place, setting a somber tone. Another girl from the party angrily asks Kaoru why she lowered her head. Kaoru explains that Umiya told her the same thing, but she feels differently. She notes that the other girls are also worried, feeling outclassed despite their talents. Two party members discuss how Yuma's adversity is wearing down everyone's spirit. Yuma wishes he were stronger so he could reassure his struggling teammates. Tachigi watches his friend, a silent, unreadable expression on his face. The group decides to head back, needing to stay healthy for upcoming matches. The party of four walks away through the forest, their journey continuing. Kaoru's expression is one of quiet, steely resolve for the trials ahead. Her hand rests near the hilt of her weapon, ever ready for battle. A young man with glasses announces his intention to create a special training group. The woman he speaks to, Kaoru, expresses her surprise at this sudden proposal. He explains that even at their high level, they cannot defeat the upper classes. Their core group, he states, must train the weaker students to strengthen their ranks. Kaoru then inquires if he has already informed the rest of their party about this. His thoughts reveal he has told Sakurako, but has not yet approached Yuma. He decides to tell Yuma later, believing the news would only agitate him now. The conversation turns to recruitment, with another fighter, Majima, already having agreed to help. Their attention shifts to the primary targets of this training, the low-level students. He specifically identifies Kuga, a solitary level 2 student, as a key candidate. Kaoru brings up the strange case of Narumi, questioning the legend of his slime defeat. The man with glasses admits that the official school records might not be accurate. She counters that Narumi has no reason to feign weakness, so the data is likely true. Conceding her point, he thanks her and says he will keep her advice in mind. Now alone, the bespectacled man's expression grows serious as he reads a book. He addresses his companion directly, calling out the name Kaoru. Noting her physique, he asks if she has been training outside the dungeons. She is completely taken aback by his unexpected impersonal question. With a blush, she asks with embarrassment if she really appears that muscular. He reassures her from afar that her build is nothing to be ashamed of and suits a fighter. Changing the subject, he adds that their friend Yuma is also fine, just as he is. Confused by his statement, Kaoru asks him to explain what he means. From his position as a backline healer, he explains, he has a unique perspective. He reveals the difficult truth that Yuma's combat performance has been dropping each day. Kaoru is visibly shocked and distressed by this troubling revelation about her friend. Elsewhere, Yuma reflects on how the pain of insults hurt far more than his defeats. This emotional turmoil fuels his desperate need to become stronger to protect his dignity. The bespectacled man and Kaoru are seen observing him from a distance, understanding his pain. He confirms that Yuma has been pushing himself relentlessly since that day. With a pained smile, he laments that their party was not formed for this kind of struggle. His hand is shown clenching into a tight fist, a sign of his deep frustration. He turns to Kaoru and asks for her help in stopping Yuma from destroying himself. She listens intently, her expression serious as she weighs his heavy request. The scene shifts to Narumi, who is being praised for his physique by two new friends. He boasts with false confidence that he feels strong enough to defeat a slime today. An awkward silence from his companions highlights the absurdity of his claim. A few days after a near-death battle, he has successfully acquired the faker skill. He has also made new friends at school, Umiya and her roommate, Nitsuta. His life has fallen into a routine of dungeon diving with his family after school. He spends his remaining time researching at the vast guild library. His studies confirm that this world operates on the base rules of the game Dunx. He finds no trace of advanced mechanics or the DLC content he expected. His research leads him to believe the current level cap is set at 30. A sudden, shocking realization hits him with the force of a physical blow. He stands before a restricted archive, learning he needs rank 8 clearance to enter. Facing this new obstacle, he lets out a sigh of profound frustration. His thoughts turn to the mysterious adventurers he met, needing to learn their identities. He knows that as a rank 9, he can access the files after passing a promotion test. Though it wasn't his original plan, he resolves to take the test for answers. He asks an attendant for the schedule of the rank 8 test, learning it is on Wednesdays. An imposing multi-story brick building stands tall, setting the scene at an academy. Inside, a student is seen standing beside a desk, looking over a document. The heavyset student, Narumi, enters a large, sparsely populated hall with long tables. A sign on a nearby door indicates this is the area for the promotional exam. In a locker room, Narumi notes with some self-consciousness that he is the only one wearing his bulky training suit. He observes his more athletic classmates with a serious, focused expression. A tight close-up on Narumi's face reveals his sharp, determined eyes. Elsewhere, a young woman with long dark hair, Umiya, ties it into a ponytail. Her focus is broken as she is startled by something, letting out a small sound. Her eyes widen as she looks at a classmate, a flicker of recognition in her gaze. Narumi covers his mouth, relieved that he narrowly avoided having his secret discovered. He nervously resolves to be extremely careful so she doesn't find out the truth. An instructor stands before the class asking if everyone has received the exam documents. He instructs the students to use the URL on the paper to log in. Narumi examines his document, his expression serious as he absorbs the instructions. The paper details the objective: retrieve an item from location F-3 in the dungeon. He understands that he must bring the item back to the guild. The instructor explains that the timer on their terminals will start upon entering the dungeon. Umiya stands by a desk, her posture and expression showing her firm resolve. Narumi and his peers huddle around a desk reviewing their exam papers. Umiya's voice cuts through the room as she urgently calls out for Narumi. She asks another student if they have seen Narumi Suda. Spotting Narumi at his desk, she lets out a small sound of acknowledgement. Narumi looks up, startled, as she approaches his desk with purpose. A suited instructor intervenes, apologizing and explaining there was an error in Umiya's map. He bows deeply, and Narumi's group accepts his apology for the mix-up. Umiya looks at Narumi, a bead of sweat on her face, surprised by the news. Walking with her group, Umiya notes that they are close to their destination. She and Narumi walk with other adventurers towards the dungeon entrance. Narumi's eyes narrow with suspicion, a flicker of distrust on his face. He internally acknowledges her devotion while suspecting she might try to cheat. A close-up on his face reveals his silent, intense contemplation of the situation. He turns and asks Umiya why she has chosen to take the promotion test. She begins her explanation, mentioning the upcoming class match at the end of the semester. With firm resolve, she states that her classmates are working hard and she won't give up. Narumi confirms the entire school is tense about the match, making it impossible to ignore. Umiya worries that the level difference between classes will become painfully clear. Her eyes burn with conviction as she declares her desire to do everything she can. Narumi looks on, his own expression intense and unreadable as he listens. Umiya says she wants to be just like him, asking what his own plans are. She waves goodbye to Narumi and proceeds alone into a desolate rocky canyon. She stands cautiously at the entrance to a narrow pass, steeling herself. Pointing ahead, she identifies her destination at the end of the path. She walks through the canyon, the ground littered with the remains of defeated monsters. The carnage is fresh, with a monstrous fist and a screaming head visible in the debris. A man in ornate armor stands with his arms crossed, waiting for her arrival. From his vantage point, he notes with a smug smile that she has come. He formally identifies her as Umiya Satsuki, a first-year student from Class E. The armored man waits for her to confirm her identity, his posture confident. Umiya looks up, her expression grim but resolute, and confirms that she is here. In a desolate canyon, an armored man with glasses asks a young woman with a dark ponytail if they have met before. She confirms this is their first meeting, wondering to herself if this stranger is an official from the Adventurers Guild. Believing this is her test, she asks if her task is simply to take the scroll-like documents resting on a nearby pillar. The two figures stand apart from one another in the vast, empty, and rocky expanse. With a swift, dismissive motion, the armored man throws the documents aside, rendering them unimportant. The scroll tumbles through the air, landing with a soft thud in the dust, its purpose now void. He declares a sudden change to the exam, stating that she must now fight him in order to pass. A fist connects with immense force, a brutal and sudden display of overwhelming power. Defeated on the ground, she questions his authority, but he dismisses her concerns as irrelevant. He taunts her, claiming her only real fault is being a student at the adventure school. Her eyes widen with a horrifying realization as the pieces of the elaborate trap click into place. A memory reveals a school official apologizing for a supposed error in the map he had provided her. Understanding the betrayal, she cries out the name of her classmate, Narumi, who received the correct information. From a hidden vantage point behind a rock, Narumi watches the vicious confrontation unfold. In a flash forward, an injured Umiya is stunned to learn from a school official that she has been expelled. Her face becomes a mask of disbelief as she struggles to process the devastating final verdict. The school official calmly tells her not to misunderstand the gravity of the situation she is in. He informs her that the decision has already been made by those in authority, leaving no room for appeal. Utterly defeated, she can only whisper her disbelief at the finality of the school's judgment. The official explains that her act of rebellion against a student from a higher class was found intolerable. He callously advises her to simply view her expulsion as an unavoidable, impersonal, natural disaster. The sign for her classroom, 1E, marks a place she can no longer return to, a symbol of her lost future. Inside the classroom, her former friend Tachigi apologizes for his inaction, his face full of regret. He expresses deep remorse, feeling he was careless and should have done something to help her sooner. Holding her expulsion letter, she insists that her friend Tachigi is not at fault for what happened. Another friend tells her not to misdirect her anger as she departs from her classmates for the last time. She stands alone with an umbrella, a solitary figure against the backdrop of the school in the pouring rain. Her parents offer words of encouragement as her hand tightens on her weapon's hilt, her resolve hardening. A flicker of a pained, determined smile touches her lips amidst her overwhelming sorrow. Kneeling in the downpour, she throws her head back and lets out a raw scream of pure anguish. The narrator's voice concludes that this tragic series of events was the end of the Umiya Satsuki he knew. The scene returns to the canyon, where the armored man looms over the defeated Umiya, questioning her presence. He pushes his glasses up, mockingly asking what is so wrong with her being from the adventure school. He begins listing her supposed crimes, the first being her utter worthlessness upon entering the school. Her face is a mask of shock and defiance as she listens to his cruel and unjust accusations. He continues, citing her audacity to face him and her lack of power as further transgressions. Her fourth and final crime, he sneers, is that she has already been looked down upon by the average adventurer. Fueled by a surge of rage, she lunges forward in a desperate, last-ditch attack with a small knife. He effortlessly blocks her strike, revealing his level as 13, far superior to her own. Holding her small blade between his fingers, he looks down on her with complete dismissive confidence. She grits her teeth, her defiant attack proving utterly useless against his immense strength. He declares with absolute certainty that there is no chance he will ever lose to a student from Class E. With immense force, he slams her body backward against the hard rock wall of the canyon. The impact shatters the stone behind her, and she slumps to the ground, completely defeated. He confesses that his earlier promise of her passing the exam if she won was, of course, a lie. He dismisses all students from her school, calling their power and their judgment completely childish. He walks towards his defeated opponent, his victory seemingly absolute and his intentions menacing. He prepares to grab the fallen Umiya, his posture indicating the fight is far from over. Suddenly, his smug expression vanishes, replaced by one of pure, unrestrained fury. He screams at an unseen intervener, vowing to deal with them personally for their interference. With a violent motion, a man in ornate armor seizes a young woman's arm. She looks up at him, defeated as he holds her captive in the rocky canyon. He furiously states his intention to find that fatso and dares anyone to stop him. Declaring that this is it, he punctuates his rage with a swift, powerful kick. Standing over his victims, he rants about personally dealing with them and their unseen friend. His face is a mask of pure, unrestrained fury as he prepares to unleash his violence. A sepia-toned memory shows two figures expressing their trust and hope in Satsuki. In her past, Satsuki stands before her armored companions, apologizing for her failure. Another memory shows her before a crowd, admitting her inability to succeed. The weight of her past failures culminates in an image of her, defeated and crying. One of her armored companions lies motionless, a stark reminder of her past loss. But her eyes now burn with resolve as she declares that was what happened before. A massive, heavy-treaded boot descends, poised to crush the ground with immense force. An adventurer with glasses looks up, his face frozen in slack-jawed terror. A spiky-haired young man, Suda, lunges forward, shoving the man to safety. A memory reveals someone dismissing the deadly reality as just some game. Suda's expression is one of intense seriousness, rejecting that dismissive attitude. He declares he is not a passive adult who will simply accept the situation. To drive home the danger, he sends the dazed man flying with a powerful blow. The man crashes hard against a rock wall, which shatters from the impact. Suda lectures the fallen man about the weaklings in adventurer school who lack power. His face is contorted in a shout, emphasizing the harshness of his lesson. He then turns and walks away, leaving Satsuki to tend to the wounded. Nearby, her other two companions lie unconscious, the lives she is fighting to save. Satsuki offers a water canteen to her companion, who thanks her with a pained smile. The other fallen adventurer lies on the ground, his face bruised and unconscious. His cracked glasses rest on the rocky ground beside his still form. A tall, powerful woman appears, calmly surveying the devastation and asking what happened. Her long hair whips through the air as she blurs into motion with supernatural speed. Suda whirls around, his eyes wide with shock at her impossibly fast arrival. The veiled woman kneels, her expression focused, a silent challenge in her eyes.